It having reached the hour of 5:30, I am calling the March 8th, 2022 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Here.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Here.
Councilmember Ricky.
Here.
Councilmember Zalaki. Councilmember Canoyer.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Mayor Zawala.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing while we have the invocation from Reverend Edward Isabach from St. John's Assyrian Evangelical Presbyterian Church. Welcome.
Good evening. Let us pray. Lord, make this council instruments of your peace in this town. Where there is hatred, let this people sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. May the strength of God pilot you. May the power of God preserve you. May the wisdom of God instruct you. May the hand of God protect you. May the way of God direct you. May the shield of God defend you. May the host of God guard you against the snares of the evil ones, against the temptations of the world. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please be seated. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. Item 7 has been removed from consent. The public hearing for item 31 was noticed to commence at 5:45 p.m., so that item will be taken out of order. And then there was one public comment received at CC meetings, and those emails were forwarded to all council members.
Thank you, and we did receive that email. Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflicts of interest? I do not see any. Will the city attorney report out on closed session?
Yes, Mayor. The council took a few items under closed session today, including labor negotiations and pending litigation. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you very much. Next is acknowledgements and presentations. We will be mindful that at 5:45 that we have to open our public hearing for item number 31. The first acknowledgement and presentation is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Modesto condemning the unprovoked assault on Ukraine's sovereign nation borders, independence, and territorial integrity, and opposing the unnecessary violence this conflict has caused. Whereas the City of Modesto recognizes the horrors and the humanitarian crisis that the unprovoked assault on Ukraine's sovereign national borders, independence, and territorial integrity has brought upon the people of Ukraine. And whereas the peace in Ukraine has been shattered and freedom of the Ukrainian people threatened by a dictator that does not share our values of peace, freedom, and self-determination. And whereas the Ukrainian people, their leadership, and their president have shown the world what bravery and patriotism look like in the face of an illegal assault on Ukraine's sovereignty, and whereas a free and independent Ukraine is vital in promoting and perpetuating peace, freedom, and the democratic rule of law. And whereas a democracy is the greatest form of government, and self-rule and self-determination are the natural state of humanity. And whereas American-Ukrainian relations have served as an example of peace, freedom, democracy, and human rights. And whereas the City of Modesto has been sister cities with the city of Melnitsky, Ukraine, since 1987, and whereas the cities of Modesto and Melnitsky have developed deep and meaningful bonds of friendship through cultural exchanges that enrich the city and citizens of Modesto. And whereas Ukraine and the Ukrainian people represent a distinct culture with a long and proud history. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Modesto condemn the violation of Ukraine's sovereign nation borders and oppose the unnecessary and tragic loss of life this unprovoked and illegal invasion has caused. And be it further resolved that we, the City Council of the City of Modesto, recognize the bravery and patriotism of the people of Ukraine as they fight to defend their right to peace, freedom, and the democratic rule of law, and affirm our support to the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Ukraine. This resolution will now be open to council for any questions. No questions? Any comments from the public? All right. Any comments from council members?
Thank you to staff.
Mayor,
All right, Council Member Madrigal first.
Just a brief thank you to the staff for being responsive to the wishes of the council and requests from the public to show some form of support officially from the city to the people of Ukraine. And so I think the motion that we passed last time was a letter, and I'm glad that we were able to elevate that to a resolution where each of the council members can weigh in on that with their vote.
All right, comment from Council Member Zalaki.
thank you, Mayor. I would like to echo what Councilmember Madrigal just said and add to that. I do appreciate very much the thoughtful words that staff put together, words such that provide for unity for those not only across this country, but also for those in Ukraine. And our hearts and minds, our prayers are with the citizens of the Ukraine, and I appreciate the council members that have been so supportive. Every single one of you has been so supportive on this issue. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I will make a motion to accept that resolution.
Thank you, Council Member Zalaki.
Second.
Second from Council Member Wright. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. So that carries unanimously. And this evening we have Katrina Gerard she is the president of our Modesto Sister Cities. Would you like to step to the podium and make a comment? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for two members of the City Council. I just wanted to express our appreciation and say that it's an honor for our organization to represent all of you and the City of Modesto in relation to our sister city in Melnitsky, Ukraine, and all of the work that we've done in conjunction with Open World, which is now COIL, and thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. All right. We have one more presentation. We do need to do a absolute stop at 5:45, so I do not want to hurry this presentation, but we will begin. This is a presentation of proclamation proclaiming March 8th, 2022, that's today, International Women's Day. I will read the proclamation. Proclaiming March 22nd as, no, that's not the correct one. All right. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality. International Women's Day has occurred for well over a century, with the first International Women's Day gathering in 1911, supported by over 1 million people. Today, International Women's Day belongs to all groups, collectively everywhere. This year's International Women's Day theme is #BreakTheBias, which challenges us to imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, where difference is valued and celebrated. We are all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. We can break the bias in our communities, in our workplaces, and in our schools, colleges, and universities. Collectively, we can all break the bias on International Women's Day and beyond. Now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor of Modesto, do hereby proclaim March 8th, 2022 as International Women's Day in the City of Modesto and encourage our residents to participate in events that celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness of gender equity, and against bias. Accepting this is Lindsay Bird from Lindsay Bird Consulting. Would you like to step forward?
Thank you, Mayor Zwollen and members of Modesto City Council for proclaiming recognition of International Women's Day. I'd also like to thank the Stanislaus County Commission for Women for inviting me to be here based on my work with the immigrant, refugee, and asylum-seeking teenagers of Modesto City Schools for over a decade. I'd like to introduce you to Sharon, who is one of the amazing young ladies who crossed my path years ago. Her family came from Fiji. And she's here just as a reminder of how important this day is. I have to admit, I did not grow up knowing about or celebrating International Women's Day. It was my students who brought it to my attention when they would decorate my whiteboard in my classroom. One of the young men approached a very passionate young woman from Afghanistan who was decorating the board and said, "Why do you have this day when you have Mother's Day?" And she said, "Because I've yet to have children, and we need to celebrate women who choose not to or cannot have children." And he said, "Well, if there's Father's Day and there's Mother's Day, why isn't there Men's Day?" And she calmly looked him in the eye and said, "Because your leadership and capacity is celebrated. Mine is yet to be recognized. So we like to remind you once a year." And ever since then, I've celebrated this day. So I really, really appreciate you making this part of our community on a citywide community level, and hope that we continue to honor the amazing women and girls from the 195 countries of this fabulous earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. We have the proclamation. If we could step down, we'll take a picture and present this. The council will step down. All right. We will now, it's 5:45 PM, open our public hearing for item 31. So I will open the public hearing. This is to adopt the final council district map recommended by the Citizens District Commission. And at this time, I will turn the time to our city attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is, as the mayor mentioned, it is the adoption or the consideration of adoption of the final council district map that has been recommended by the city's Citizens Districting Commission. Now, this will seem a little familiar from the last meeting where we had a public hearing simply to get public testimony and also to get any comments from the council regarding the map that the city's Citizens Districting Commission presented. As we mentioned last time, we'll go through it. We'll have a presentation again. We'll go through it a little quicker, but we felt as though it was still important to go through the background and also look at the map and the districts closely once again, just to provide any member of the public who potentially wasn't there at the last meeting another opportunity to kind of go through the process and understand what map is being recommended for the council. And with that, I know it's part of the PowerPoint, so I won't go through it. We do have Elizabeth Stitt on Zoom. She is our demographer from Redistricting Partners. I do want to mention before we get into this, though, we do have an interpreter here in the audience in case there's a need for interpreting services. I know he's going to make a quick comment.
Si hay alguien que necesita traducción al español, por favor, levante la mano y de inmediato vamos a pasar donde yo le voy a proveer unos audífonos. ¿Hay alguien en el público? Parecer no.
And I will also say, can we make a comment for the folks on Zoom, whether if they make public comment, if they could raise the hand? Could you do that, please?
Si hay alguien en el público que está en Zoom que necesita o quiere dar una opinión, por favor presione el botón en la barra inferior de la pantalla que dice Raise Hand, que significa levante la manito, y en ese momento, cuando le den su nombre, cuando pronuncien su nombre, por favor hable porque le van a desbloquear el micrófono. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Mayor, I would like to turn it over to Elizabeth Stitt with Redistricting Partners.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. It looks like you're already sharing the screen for me, so thank you very much. Glad to be back here for the last time. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So just as Jose said, this is going to look very familiar to you, so we're going to go through this a little bit faster than last time. But we do want to give everyone the background as to how we got to B3. So tonight we'll quickly talk about what is redistricting and the traditional redistricting principles we use during this entire process, the city charter requirements, and then how we got from the community of interest testimony to the draft maps. And we'll talk quickly about the district current demographics and census data, and then talk about the draft maps during the redistricting process and how we got to B3. So let's go to the next slide. So redistricting happens once every 10 years after the release of the US Census data. At its core, it's essentially just equalizing the population among the different districts. So we do this for a couple of reasons: to make sure that everyone has the ability to effectively advocate for themselves, and that they all have essentially equal voting power, regardless of which district you live in. Next slide. And these were the traditional redistricting principles that we used during the entire process. Not only are these in the Fair Maps Act, but these are also in city charter. So first and foremost, we made sure that each district is relatively equal in size, and we're basing that off of US Census data population. Then we made sure that each district is contiguous, that it maintained communities of interest. followed city and census designated boundaries. This includes natural and man-made boundaries like rivers or highways. And then finally, keep districts compact, so avoiding any kind of funny looking shapes that people associate with gerrymandering. Next slide. So of course, this was run by the Citizens Districting Commission. This is a 9-member commission, ran entirely on volunteer time. So huge appreciation to our 9 commissioners. They ran each meeting and made sure that we were doing the outreach needed. Next slide. And then of course we followed Modesto's city charter. So this is going to look very familiar to the redistricting principles. So each district has to be geographically compact and contiguous, follow visible, natural, and man-made boundaries and features, and then respect communities of interest. And then of course, district boundaries cannot be drawn with regards to incumbents or political parties. Next slide. And so with this being a Citizens Districting Commission, this was a community-based redistricting process. So the input that we received on the maps and from community of interest testimony is what drove this entire process. Of course, we followed the rules for the process. So that includes all of the traditional redistricting principles, the Fair Maps Act, City Charter, and the Federal Voting Rights Act. And then we released the maps with ample time for the public to react to it. So we were able to use all of that data to navigate the process. Next slide. And so most of the ways we got our community of interest testimony, we did many outreach hearings, both in English and in Spanish, in person and on Zoom. And then we also had community of interest forms available to people to fill out, either in person or on the website, and that was in English and Spanish as well. We also had physical maps for in-person meetings where people could draw on maps, both in English and Spanish, or if they preferred to do it from home, they had the option to use Districtor, which was a wonderful online mapping tool that allowed people to draw communities of interest and districted maps. Next slide. So you can see here, this was our community of interest outreach hearings. We had many more before this actually to get the commission up to speed and teach them about the rules and regulations so they were able to make the best choices possible. And so you can see this is the outreach schedule. So it went from December 2nd to February 2nd. And it's a mixture of online and in person, both in Spanish and English. And next slide. And real quickly, we'll go over the current demographics and census data. Next slide. And next slide. So you'll see here that we use 2 different sets of data. Go back. 2 different sets of data, the 2020 census data and then the citizen voting age population data. We use it for 2 different purposes. The 2020 census data is what we use to balance the districts. The citizen voting age population is what we use to make sure that we are following the Federal Voting Rights Act requirements. As you can see here, our deviation with the current lines is 7.5, which put us in a great spot because legally it has to be under 10%. So next slide. And so the commission reviewed 6 plans and a districtor submission. For the sake of time, we'll just go over Plan B3, but for anyone who's curious and wants to see all of the plans that we reviewed, it's absolutely on the website. All the plans, all the public testimony will be available on the website for the next 10 years per Fair Maps Act requirements, which is actually pretty nice. So that means the next time you go through this, you won't be starting from scratch. But let's talk about B3. So next slide. So B3 used major streets and neighborhoods to divide the boundaries. And go to the next slide. One of the major differences between this and the current lines is the inclusion of the neighborhood of the airport neighborhood in District 2. So go to the next slide. So you'll see the colors are the current lines, and then the black line is the proposed map that you all are voting on today. So that neighborhood is the largest difference compared to the current lines. So next slide. And it also brings down the total deviation to 5.3%. So right now it's at 7.5%. And next slide. And then these are the individual districts. You'll notice that this district didn't change too much as District 1. Next slide. District 2 previously had over 50% Latino CVAP, and we felt that it was important to make sure that it remained over 50% Latino CVAP, so we didn't dilute their voting power. The next slide. District 3, again, very similar to the makeup right now. Next slide. And here's District 4, major difference. It no longer has the airport neighborhood. District 5 is very similar. And next, and here's District 6. It just loses essentially a block between rows, or a block amongst Briggsmore. And next slide. So finally, the recommendation for tonight is for the resolution approving the final City Council district map as recommended by the Citizens Districting Commission. I'm happy to take any last minute questions. And with that, I'm happy to hand it back over to the mayor.
Thank you very much for your report. We appreciate it. Does the council have any questions of staff? I do not see any online or in person. Do any members of the public have any comments on this item? Right, I do not see any blue cards regarding this item. Any comments from council members? Seeing none, once again, I thank you very much for the effort. And once again, I would like to thank our Citizens Districting Commission. They stepped up, were dedicated to this, attended multiple meetings, spent many, many hours working on this process, and I'm really, really appreciative of them. So I need a motion
Mayor,
to approve.
you have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Canoyer.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that I put it in a little late. I just was going to say that I really, having been on the council and for as long as I have, and seeing people volunteer, and this was a very dedicated group of people, like most of our volunteers, but this required a lot of time, and I just want to say how much I appreciated them doing this, and everybody who does volunteer for committees and commissions on the city. Thank you very much.
Motion to approve 31.
All right, this is a motion to approve resolution approving the final council district map recommended by the Citizens Districting Commission. So we have a motion by Vice Mayor Wright, second by Councilmember Ricky. Will you please call the roll, City Clerk?
Councilmember Escutia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye, so it carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we will go back to acknowledgements and presentations. We will go to item 3, the presentation of proclamation proclaiming March 22nd, 2022 as World Water Day. And I will read the proclamation. World Water Day celebrates water and raises awareness of the 2 billion people living without access to safe water. It is about taking action to tackle the global water crisis. A core focus of World Water Day is to support the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030. The infrastructure that brings water to and from homes and businesses is essential to the quality of life and economic vitality of our community. The City of Modesto has 212,616 customers, 914 miles of water mains, 77,000 water service connections, and 70 water wells. Changes in weather patterns are causing epic drought and widespread flooding in regions throughout the United States, putting pressure on water systems that are ill-equipped and ill-prepared to manage such extreme events. Utilities nationwide are grappling with aging infrastructure and lack reliable revenue and funding to maintain systems, let alone upgrade their systems. And 1/5 of the U.S. economy would grind to a halt without a reliable and clean source of water. And managing water responsibly is critical to our world's environmental health and to a high quality of life through economic commerce, power generation, and recreation. Investing in our drinking water and wastewater systems will secure a bright and prosperous future for generations to come, and innovation in water conservation and water reuse will drive job growth, economic development, and establish a 21st century paradigm of water management in the United States. For every one job created in the water sector, another 3.68 jobs are added in the national economy. And for every $1 spent on infrastructure improvements, the U.S. generates $6 in returns. And different regions face different water challenges, so the solutions to strengthen our drinking water and wastewater systems must be locally driven, but reinvestment in our water must be a national priority. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Suze Wallen, proclaim Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 as World Water Day in the City of Modesto and call upon our residents to join the United Nations in supporting World Water Day, and it is dated today. Will Wong and his team, including Precious, our water drop mascot, will be joining us at this time. Here comes Precious.
And she is precious. Well, Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for this awesome proclamation. This proclamation really recognizes the importance of water in our community. And if you all recall, the motto for the City of Modesto is water, wealth, contentment, health. So our forefathers also understood the importance of water. I'm proud to represent the great team to provide drinking water to all our customers. We take that wastewater and we recycle 100% of that water. And we actually generate some revenue by selling some of that recycled water. So proud of the work that we do in our community, and we look forward to doing more for our community. One of the things I will point out that as we are facing a drought, that please call the Water Division if you have any questions about conservation at 209-342-2246, or also visit us on the website at www.modestogov.com. Look for our department utilities, and we have a lot of great information for our residents in terms of how you can conserve. And with that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your remarks. We will join you to take a photo and give you the proclamation. When we conclude with that photo, we will meet with our friends from sister cities and take a photo with them. Thank you. If everyone will join me down below.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Right. Next is our public comment period. For anyone wishing to speak on any item under public comment, this is for items not on the council agenda, and each person has 3 minutes to speak. And here in person, do we have Jorge Martinez? Welcome.
May I take this off?
Yes?
Thank you very much. I didn't want to be the first one, but I guess here I go. I came this morning. My name is George Martinez, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, to the council. I was here this morning talking to the Board of Supervisors. My name is George Martinez, and I've lived in this area for over 50 years. And I am quite concerned that I have seen neighborhoods from South Modesto, the west side, the airport district. There hasn't been much improvement. We talk about infrastructure improvements. We talk about moving forward, but how in the world can we move forward when we're leaving so many neighborhoods behind? So many. And please don't look at me as a brown Mexican or a brown person, you know, fighting for a certain cause. I'm speaking for everyone in these neighborhoods, because that changes everything. And as you can look in this auditorium, I see a lot of Hispanic and Latino people. And my thing is, and it's what's it going to take? And I've read in years past that the problem is that the council, the Modesto City Council, and the County Board of Supervisors can't seem to figure this out, and they're at odds. And I read this in the paper quite a few years ago. And as I look, I mean, just looking at these neighborhoods, not much has improved, and that is sad. And my question is why? Why is it taking so long? What's it going to take? Can someone that's not Hispanic look at the situation and say, you know, something needs to be done here? Why does it take somebody to bring it to the attention of the public or the council to say, hey, you know, this ain't right? Everybody deserves sidewalks. And it doesn't take a PhD or a degree to say, you know what, do I want to be walking in mud? Do I want to be walking on dirt? Could we have better policing? Could we have better lighting, better infrastructure in our neighborhoods? They pay taxes. We pay taxes, the same as anyone else. But when I drive around town and I see better neighborhoods with better infrastructure, better streets and better neighborhoods, and I look back and these people are being left behind, I think that is wrong, terribly wrong, and what's it going to take? But I thank you for your time. I thank you for this opportunity here, but my question is, I say that the city council here and the county board come together and hash this out. Get the people in politics, get the people that are representing this area to come together and brainstorm this, and also get the community involved. I am now retired from my job of 38 years. I have time on my hands. But the thing is, what's it going to take, I ask myself? A lot of footwork. It's going to take getting people to speak up, or to give the voiceless a voice, or to say, you know what, Mayor Sue, I go, you know what, maybe we do need a lady as mayor to really get things going, but also get behind Madrigal and support him in his area and these underprivileged neighborhoods, because I want everybody to prosper and move forward. Is my time up?
It is.
It is. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I thank you.
Thank you for being here.
And the other thing I did mention, I don't know why I forgot it. I am also asked the County Board of Supervisors for a name change of Crow's Landing to Cesar Chavez, because he was a great man. And they did it for Martin Luther King here on Franklin Boulevard in Modesto many years ago, to recognize a great man as Martin Luther King. So that's also something to consider. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, next card is Louisa Bryant. Take your time. It's okay. Do you need some assistance? No. Okay, are you sure?
This would help, these pictures would help my presentation.
Okay. Would you like to hand them to
I mean,
the clerk? We'll pass them through, and then we'll make sure they get back to you.
Before I make the presentation,
Can you speak into the microphone?
I just wanted to apologize for the speech problem. It's from the exposure to the mold and the wood rot. So please have patience. The mayor and council members, I'm here tonight to, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this. My voice can be. I am here tonight to request and solicit the help of the council in providing me with a referral to the proper individuals or agencies who can intervene and advocate on the behalf of a disabled 85-year-old woman and bring an end to this oppressive experience that I'm going through. I have, for your review at a more convenient time, I made up envelope, I offer copies of a letter to the Memorial Hospital. The letter, copy of the City of Modesto case detail and the case number, the list of agencies that had copies of a 100-page binder that I mailed to them, and a list of agencies, and many, contacted just in this past month, some by referrals, and pictures detailing the black mold and wood rot discovered in the roof of my patio. This brings me to the reason I am here seeking your help tonight. For years, the previous tenants in the apartment above me were watering plants, some in large planters and containers placed along the ledge of the patio. This was a daily occurrence. These waterings eventually seeped into the wall of the patio. I did not complain until gaps appeared between the panel and the trim, I'm Italian, which caused me to fear the possible collapse of the roof. I meant that with my hands, I'm sorry. I talk with my hands. Okay. Which caused me to fear for the possible collapse of the roof. Nothing was done until I refused to pay the additional raise in rent until the roof was repaired. On February 8th, maintenance removed the panel, and as the pictures I have provided you, they illustrate the indescribable amount of black mold and wood rot that was exposed. Some maintenance was performed and a used plywood panel was reattached with no further repairs considered. At this time, the gentleman who oversees the building inspectors phoned me yesterday and assured me he would be informing the owners of the need to obtain a permit and have the roof repaired properly. And also, they must secure the services of a contractor to inspect the wall above my patio for mold and wood rot. This is the end. In the interim, I continue to be exposed to this mold and wood rot, which is hazardous to my health. I have been in the emergency room 5 times and hospitalized twice in the past year. being misdiagnosed and given inadequate health care because of this misdiagnosis. I have been told to go to the ER again for my breathing problems, but I do not believe another visit to the ER would be beneficial to me. I thank you for your kind attention and look forward to any help you can give me, because I have envelopes, 7 of them, with material that I spoke about here for your review.
Thank you for
Okay.
your comments.
Thank you.
And we will return the pictures. I know that I spoke with you
Yes, dear.
previously and that we've had quite a bit of contact, and we do have Jalen French here this evening and also Scotty Douglas, who have been working on this and will continue to work on it.
It's been over a month since they discovered it, and
Okay.
I can't take it at my age and my disability.
All right.
And this problem.
Thank you for making the effort to be here this evening.
Thank you. for your
You're
interest.
welcome.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. All right. Next, I have a blue card from Emerson Drake. I wasn't sure if you want to speak at this time or to the items that are listed here. Okay. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emerson Drake. Not quite, but almost a 35-year resident of Modesto. And quite honestly, in some years, I've been a frequent visitor here. You know, I've asked several times, and it's to deaf ears, about your Zoom meetings, not the ones we're having tonight. I'm not complaining about that. But when you do a workshop, when you do a committee meeting, you're doing those on Zoom, but you refuse to record them. Now that space it's not difficult. We all know, thanks to your predecessor, you just have to click the little button on Zoom and it gets recorded. Well, I don't see why we don't. Maybe you don't want other people to see what goes on in these meetings. I'm not gonna, I can speculate, and I quite honestly know some of the truth, but why, when you say transparency and accountability are 2 of your main themes, do you avoid transparency and accountability? It's a fair question. Again, all you have to do is hit record so we can see what goes on, because you can't always make those committee meetings during the day. But that doesn't bother you. The day-long workshop, I was able to stay for half of it and got home to watch the rest. But did you record it? Well, maybe that day, I don't think some of you wanted everybody to see what was going on. I'll be honest. When the second half of the day, we had somebody running around breaking the rules. It's time it was wearing a mask. Our mayor couldn't be bothered to show the leadership to insist. And it didn't bother me so much because obviously I was home. But when you walked over to Councilman Madrigal and you got in his face while he's wearing a mask and you weren't, I thought that just showed a lack of something. I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me what that is. The other thing, you know, here today we're celebrating International Women's Day. And I know most of you don't know, but my wife, Women Belong in the Resistance, is about as mild as she gets. And I believe in that. But unfortunately, this council has shown a lack of disrespect to women. You've shown a willingness to create a hostile work environment. So they get chased away. I can show you examples that we did it from the dais. Councilman Zalaki did it on a repetitive basis for quite some time. But you all just turn a blind eye to it. Because we get up here, we take a picture, we issue a proclamation, but we don't walk the walk. We just talk the talk. And I think that's wrong. And until you're willing to do what you say, it leads people to wonder. I don't think this love fest is deserved sometimes. It's nice. I know you want to get reelected. But let's be honest about what's going on. Thank you for your time. I'll be back on each one of those others. I think there's 11, right?
All right. Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Sebastian Jones.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Welcome.
And City Councilman. My name is Sebastian Jones, community activist here in Modesto, and the Dr. Martin Luther King Committee. Well, first of all, I have to apologize. Last week when I was here, Joseph Lopez, well, I had some 7-year-old thing that happened. So, Mr. Lopez, I'm going to apologize to you in the public because the city was run during this pandemic. We got the water, automatic water thing, but you was running this city. So I have to publicly apologize. Now, let's get to the main thing. You elect Mr. Jones in District 2, we'll get what you need. I'm here on the Dr. Martin Luther King Park, and I do say the center, even though they cut me short. Mayor, we got $8.5 million, thanks to Mr. Jones' 17 years of working and trying to secure something here. Oh, yes, I want you guys to see this new statue we can bring here to Modesto and memorialize Martin Luther King and the park, and we'll get that center. Matter of fact, we can get a new center. Anything up under Dr. King brings money. You see what happened? We brought $8.5 million. We lost the bid, and it went to Cesar Chavez. But soon as the state found out that the name change of the park, they blessed us with $8.5 million. Now, what do you think if we get that center? We may get $10 million and make a glass building, get a new building. Because Dr. King brings funding. And can you imagine having this miniature statue? People would come all over California and take a picture with Dr. King. This one right here, this one. They would take a picture because everybody else got the other statue. Well, we'll have one like Washington right here in this town. And I need the people in Modesto that 3 minutes or 5 minutes. It's cutting on my time now. It's 5 minutes. Okay, I got 2 more minutes. Okay. But what I'm trying to say, Mayor, I need some answers. We got this money in the bank, and it's drawing interest. Now, I had to call down there last month to find out what happened to the park sign. I was trying to get it done during Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. That didn't happen. I said, okay, let's get it done in Black History Month. Boy, I tell you, the devil's in the mix. All of a sudden, they said something about the concrete. It's just chaos. Another fight that we have to fight. We need to move on and get that sign over there and get that building done. So I'm asking the mayor and the city council, what's the holdup? We need to start planning because I want to be involved in this. And we need to go ahead and change that building. You don't name a great man of this magnitude, put his last name on a building. That's an insult. What is it going to hurt to have that whole west side? Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial with this statue. We haven't had a statue in this town probably 30 years. Let's bring some greatness to this great city. Let's bring it. Don't hold me 17 years fighting. Look, I done had a heart attack. I'm tired. We need to move. And I didn't like what the culture committee done They split my package. It was all at one, 3 years waiting on them to do their little dirty business. Now, y'all know I speak freely. I'm boots on the ground. I'm for the people. I'm for the people. And that's why y'all need to elect Mr. Jones in District 2. West Side and Modesto. West Side and South Modesto. That's my stomping ground. I'm not going to leave them. But let's get this done. All it takes is y'all vote. And we can name Robert Kennedy, put him at a park somewhere. And let Dr. King stand alone. He died alone.
All right, Sebastian,
All right.
thank you for your
I
comment.
got carried away because I get happy. Mayor and the city council, I thank you for your time. And Mr. Lopez, I'm a God-fearing man. I hope you accept my apology. God is good. Thank you.
Thank you. I see two members of the public online. Diane Creasy, would you like to make your comments? You're on mute. There we go.
Last meeting, I was unable to stay. I had sent in a question as to Modesto participating in a committee or something to help Ukraine and for whatever we can do. Now, I was not able to stay all the way through, so I didn't hear what happened. So I'm asking now, and I got into this meeting late, and you were doing something with Ukraine at that time. And I'm wondering if we're formally going to be doing something for them.
I would suggest that you contact the mayor's office, and we can refer you to someone that you can have a place to help with.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for being on. Appreciate it. All right, next we have Imam Mansgood online. It looks like you are on mute. Are they unable to mute from what you can tell? Yeah. All right. The Imam, if you could unmute. All right, looks like it's not working at this time. Maybe now? No? All right, so we will go on to our next item. So we have, are the consent items. We've been requested to pull item 7 previously, and then here tonight, 5, 6, 8, 12, 13, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 26. Okay, I'll go through them again. Items 5, 6, 8, 12, 13, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 26. All right, will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Okay, and just for clarification, item 7 was removed from consent just for a separate vote. and the other items that the mayor read were pulled by a member of the public. All right. Item 4, consider approving the minutes from the March 1st, 2022 council meeting. Item 5 was pulled from consent. Item 6 was pulled from consent. Item 7 was pulled from consent. Item 8 was pulled from consent. Item 9, consider approving the recommended budget adjustments to fiscal year 2021-22 annual operating and capital improvements program budgets. Item 10, consider approving a CARES Act Emergency Solutions Grant to Stanislaus County Affordable Housing Corporation for the renovation of the shelter located at 512 Vine Street in an amount not to exceed $186,000 and $20,000 in activity delivery to prevent, mitigate, and respond to the spread of COVID-19. Item 11, consider approving the upstreaming of the remaining ERAP 1 funds to the U.S. Treasury to be reallocated to the state of California with a designation for Modesto residents in an additional amount of $342,290.29 for a total amount of $2,670,235.34. Item 12 was pulled from consent. Item 13 was pulled from consent. Item 14, consider adopting the 2022 state and federal legislative priorities and authorizing the city manager or his designee to carry out the necessary steps to help the city achieve the identified priorities. Item 15 was pulled from consent. Item 16, consider approving the competitive bidding process from Sourcewell, formerly National Joint Powers Alliance, with Kenworth Truck Company under authorized dealer with NorCal Kenworth Bay Area, San Leandro, California, for Kenworth cab and chassis truck for a total amount not to exceed $148,510, and approving the competitive bidding process from Byborg Cooperative Purchasing with Cooper Equipment Company from San Antonio, Texas, for a slurry tank for a total amount not to exceed $279,034. Item 17, consider reissuing request for bid number 1819-49 RB for 7 stake-side dump trucks and RFB 1920-83 for a 1-ton utility truck, and authorizing staff to reissue the RFBs at a future date or identify a cooperative agreement when approved by the city manager. Item 18 was pulled from consent. Item 19 was pulled from consent. Item 20 was pulled from consent. Item 21 was pulled from consent. Item 22, consider approving the submission of the city's local transportation funds fiscal year 2021-22 claim for non-motorized and other purposes, bike lanes and pedestrian pathways and local streets and road interests in the amount of $503,707 to the Stanislaus Council of Governments, and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 capital improvement program budget in an amount not to exceed $503,707. Item 23, consider approving a resolution authorizing participation in the PARS Post-Employment Benefits Trust Program to be administered by Public Agency Retirement Services and the U.S. Bank, appointing the city manager or his designee as the city's plan administrator. Item 24, consider approving the award of bid in the agreement for backflow prevention testing services to Dan Eli Backflow Services from Turlock, California, for a 2-year agreement with 3 1-year extension options for an estimated annual amount of $25,000 and a total amount not to exceed $125,000 over 5 years. Item 25, consider approving the award of bid and agreement for disking and flail mowing services to Elite Maintenance and Tree Services Incorporated from Clovis, California, for a 2-year agreement with 3 1-year extension options for an annual estimated cost of $151,335 and a total amount not to exceed $756,675 over 5 years. Item 26 was pulled from consent. Item 27, consider rejecting all bids for the upgrade Traffic Signals 2017 project and authorize staff to re-advertise the projects for bids at a future date. Item 28, consider approving a First Amendment to the agreement with West Yost Associates Incorporated from Sacramento, California, for design services for Del Rio Replacement Well 271 in the amount of $42,700 for the identified scope of services for a revised total cost not to exceed $898,390. And item 29, consider approving the award of bid and agreement with Western Oilfield Supplies Company doing business as Rain for Rent from Bakersfield, California, for the annual rental of 3 DV400C pumps, and related equipment for a one-year agreement with 4 one-year extension options for an estimated annual amount of $60,545 and a total amount not to exceed $334,549 over 5 years.
Move to approve all consent items.
All right.
Except 5, 6, 7, 8, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Second.
Okay, there's a few others in there, and 14 was not pulled.
No, 15, I'm sorry.
So the items that were pulled were 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 was pulled previously. 8, 12, 13, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 26.
Motion.
She seconded.
Second.
All right, so,
As amended.
all right, Councilmember Canoyer made a motion. We have a second from Vice Mayor Wright. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki? Councilmember Zalaki?
Sorry, the button would not respond. Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. Thank you very much. That carries unanimously. Next, we will go to consent item 7. Consider final adoption of ordinance 3744-CS, adding Article 7, local hiring preference in public works contracts, and Article 8, utilizing skilled and trained workforce in public works contracts to Title 8, Chapter 3 of the Modesto Municipal Code. And for a brief staff report, if there is any, I will turn it over to City Attorney Jose Sanchez.
So Mayor, no staff report is needed. This was pulled for a separate vote only, so you can go ahead, just like the consent calendar, unless a council member has any comments and wants to have discussion, have just a vote on it.
All right,
Move approval.
Councilmember Wright.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Madrigal, a second from Councilmember Ricky. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer? No. Councilmember Wright?
No.
Mayor
right.
Zwallen?
Aye. So the motion carries 5-2. All right. We will now go to item 5. Consider final adoption of ordinance 3742-CS, amending section 10-3.704, application and permit procedures of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 10, commercial cannabis uses of the Modesto Municipal Code, to rename the Cannabis Permit Committee to be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee, in order to capture the standing committee's new expanded role. Can we have a staff report or any comment at this time?
Absolutely, Mayor. I'll go ahead and I'll provide a quick, just a summary of what the item was. And I think the title, Mayor, related to this ordinance kind of says what it was doing, which was, the reality was it was changing, it was creating or changing the title of this cannabis permit committee that was allowed for under the municipal code, under your cannabis ordinance. Originally, it was only dealing with permits related to non-dispensary and non-delivery, and it was set up in order to approve those permits as allowed for under your ordinance. As we started moving forward with this program, staff also thought it would be appropriate, in order to expand the role of this committee, in order to provide recommendations to the city council on all cannabis-related items, similar to your other standing committees that provide recommendations to the council. The items not only changed the name of this committee, but they also amended your municipal code to expand the name in order to now be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee, to capture the role of that subcommittee to also be reviewing and providing recommendations of the program itself. the ordinance themselves. Item number 5 ends up just amending the cannabis ordinance in order to just make the change of the name. And then the item we'll consider later, item number 6, puts it in as a standing committee under your ordinance, under your municipal code, similar to your Economic Development Committee, your Finance Committee, your Safety and Communities Committee. It just adds it there as part of the council standing committees.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public?
Emerson Drake again. I watched some of this when it went down last week. I reviewed it again, and I'm a little concerned. I think maybe we're placing too much responsibility in too small a basket. You know, if we want suggestions, I don't think we need it from the ruling elite. I think maybe we need to have a standing committee of individuals. Now, I'm not hitting you up to be on it. Let me say that right off the bat. I speak for the underdog a lot. We all know that. Doesn't matter what the topic is. And I don't think that we need people who, I don't think they know much about cannabis to begin with. And I'm concerned because we had an issue just before the last election where we had a police detective go in and have a misadventure in one of the clubs. And we did public record requests on it, and quite honestly, we were shut down. We weren't interested in any details. It was referred to by the police chief then as a misunderstanding. Well, that misunderstanding generated $100,000 worth of donations, just in one lump sum, because they were so upset about what went on and the heavy-handedness these individuals chose. Now, I can't speak any more directly than that because, again, there's video of the incident, and quite honestly, the city refused to release it. Now, they played some little game about, well, there's a side investigation. Nobody was interested in that. That was made very clear. We wanted to see the interaction. And I think if we have just city council members, the ruling elite, again, if you will, being on this committee, and no public committee, no public input, I think it's just too much power in too few hands. Now, I know the city council prefers it that way. You like to be able to assign people to committees so you get the predicted outcome. The Forward Together committee was a good example of it, where we actually took people from outside Modesto. Why anybody from outside Modesto should speak about what happens inside, I really don't know. We've had them, let's just stay focused. The point is, I understand why you want to continue to control. We need to keep an eye on these. As far as I can tell, throughout the county, there haven't been many issues. And speaking of that, the county decided to take the money that they charged the cannabis dispensaries and put up cameras. And they said that the city council intends on doing the same thing, that we're going to put license plate readers, but only for stolen cars. Well, nobody believes that either. And I think it puts too much control in too few of hands. Now, I'm sorry, because I thought I detected a concern among some of the council members the last time about doing this, especially when it's in the pockets of the same people all the time. I'm going to suggest that you put this off, find a way to have the public have an opportunity to speak out as part of this committee. It's too much power in too few hands, and they're going to take suggestions they don't know. If you think you do, I'm willing to engage you in a conversation, but I'll bet you don't. And I just get this from following the county closely. I know I'm out of time, so I'm going to sit down. Again, it's too much power into too few hands. The public has a right to be represented, and not by you, but by members of the public. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wanting to speak on this topic? I do not see anyone in person or online. Do any council members have any comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion approving final adopt? Sorry, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me?
It doesn't work?
No, unfortunately, the screen doesn't work.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know why this isn't working.
I'd like to
Does
make a
any-
quick comment if that's okay.
Sure. Is it, oh.
So does this not work
Hold on,
anymore?
let me try. Hold on.
I'll just use the hand holding
Just keep
up.
Yeah, we'll do
Right on.
hand raising. Let's see.
So I think that Emerson brings up some interesting points here. This is going to be a regular committee, just like our Economic Development Committee or Safety and Communities, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that there's a good, I think, a positive public commenting piece in that mechanism already. So I think it's a positive, really good thing. And in fact, I think that this consent item actually, this item, I should say, actually makes it more accessible to the public. Because it makes it into a standing committee. So I think that's a good thing. And we've got a lot of important issues coming to this committee that we're going to need to discuss. You know, we're making really good revenue numbers on the cannabis industry right now that are really making big strides in helping fund our city in a time where we really need revenue. And this committee is going to have to, you know, make a lot of those hard decisions. And I think the public is part of that. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you for those comments. I'll need a motion approving final adoption of ordinance 37. Oh, sorry. Welcome, Sebastian.
It's okay. On this, excuse me, on this committee, are there just gonna be just council members? It's just gonna be just council members, right?
It's a standing committee, just like our other standing committees with council members, yes.
So you're not gonna have like, you know, like the committee I sit on, like people that wanna join the committee. It's not gonna be like that.
It's not a community committee, it's a standing council committee. So the public has every opportunity during public comment period, during the committee meetings, and as well as when it comes back here to us to speak on the items.
Well, can I ask why they didn't open up to, you know, maybe the public sits in with you guys too and make decisions? Why it has to be. What I'm trying to say is, would it be nice to have like 3-member board from the public that would like to join instead of just you guys? It would make it equal. It's a committee, just like your other committees, that you have regular people like me that's involved in the committee. Can we have that? Maybe.
Pardon me? Sure, go ahead and complete your
Maybe I'm not
comments and
making
then
it
we'll have a
clear.
response.
Okay, maybe I'm not making it clear. What I'm saying is, you only got just basically whatever council member want to join this. I'm asking, maybe we should have some people from the public join in and be part of the committee. That way, they're involved. That's what I'm trying to say. Instead of just council members, let ordinary people fill out an application to join this. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Or maybe we should put it on hold and think about it. Because we do have people that likes to be involved. And it does help them, so it won't say, you guys made all decisions. But if you said, no, we have 4 committees, that's not council members, that's in the discussion too. Don't you think that would be better? Because it is a committee. Why leave out? Okay, why leave out the public that may want to get involved? Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank you for my
comments.
time.
Motion to approve consent item 5.
All right.
Excuse me, David. The mayor was going to answer my question. Thank you. Don't be so much in a hurry, okay? She was going to explain something to me.
All right, thank you for your comments. As I explained, and maybe our city attorney can explain it more thoroughly, but standing committees are council committees. The public has every opportunity to give input in every one of those committees, just like tonight. Okay. And we can continue the conversation. Why don't we do that? So we can have a better explanation maybe of what the committee's great. All right, or would you like to make a comment?
I can't, Mayor, just simply, your ordinance right now, again, the committee was established to have, instead of having those permits be either done administratively, which many jurisdictions do, and again, we're talking about permits for non-dispensaries and non-delivery. Some jurisdictions have those approved just administratively by your city manager. The council, when adopting the ordinance, ended up, instead of having that, and instead of having the council as a whole approve those, created a committee, a subcommittee pursuant to your ordinance, that their role was to issue those permits, to hear and issue those permits. That's an expansion of that existing subcommittee to create more of this role of other things that come up related to your cannabis program, to provide recommendations. The thought of staff was this was a good idea, given that you already have standing committees. Your standing committees right now are Economic Development, Finance Committee, Safety and Communities, are all consisting of 3 council members on the committee. And then, of course, when folks can't be there, there's alternates, and we do open it up for the committee as a whole. That's the same structure we're following here.
All right, so we need a motion approving final adoption, excuse me, of ordinance 3742-CS, amending section 10.3.704, application and permit procedures of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 10, commercial cannabis uses of the Modesto Municipal Code, to rename the Cannabis Permit Committee to be known as the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee, in order to capture the standing committee's new expanded role. And I have a motion from Vice Mayor Wright.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Canoyer. Will the city clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Zalaki.
Councilmember Zalaki had to step away.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye, so the motion carries 6-1 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. All right, we will go to item 6, consider final adoption of, this is consent item 6, consider final adoption of ordinance 3743-C.S, amending section 2-1.18, standing committees of the Modesto Municipal Code to include the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee as a standing committee of the city. And we will have a staff report at this time.
And Mayor, just really quick, this is related to the previous item we just discussed. This is the other ordinance that is actually amending your municipal code to formally have that committee named as in your municipal code. That way, when anybody goes to your municipal code, your standing committee section in your code, this is listed so everybody knows that this is one of the council standing subcommittees that are, the Brown Act does apply, as you mentioned, Mayor, in the previous item, and it is open to the public.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council members? This is now working, by the way.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Emerson Drake again. You know what? I think you just gave us a prime example of, let's call it doublespeak. You said that those committee meetings are available to the public just as this one is. But that's not the truth. The truth is those committees are usually held in the afternoon where working men and women, well, a mix of them cannot attend. The other thing is, this meeting can be seen online. It'll take you a couple days to put it up, but somebody can go back and look. And they can see what conversation was had, and they can see how everybody thought. Or at least the members of the, now they can. But on these committees, quite honestly, you're hiding in a little room that the public, and recently has only been able to attend by Zoom, and then all the conversations disappear into the ether. We can't go back and look. So, Mayor, I'm going to suggest that I'll just say you misspoke. Not that you intentionally misled anybody. But when it comes time for people to have a chance to speak, they have a right to see what happened. It's not the same as a city council meeting. It's not even close. Your committee meetings, I spoke earlier about wanting to see what went on in a committee meeting because a lot of us can't make it during the day. I know how difficult it is for you to probably make it. But we can't go back and look a second time. And that's not right. If you're going to have a standing committee, and you're going, and that just immediately says the public can take a back seat. You know, we had a committee, they're going to be trotting out an ordinance soon, and I'm going to tie it together real quick, or an idea of overnight parking. But the standing committee invited the police chief. And there's so many hoops to jump through that people that are out there on the street barely managing to survive probably can't. And we would wish that they could. Don't misunderstand me. But we're going to pretend we're going to offer them a spot, but then we're going to deny them that spot. Well, this is the same. You have a chance to do it right. Why would this city council not want the public to attend? Why would they not want the public to be part of that committee? But when you make it a standing committee, you're saying, quite honestly, we don't want the public, and we don't want anybody else to know what was said. Because if you did, you'd hit the little record button, and anybody could watch it at any point in time. So why is it when we say that we're open, transparent, and accountable, the very things you do deny that? And it's not once, it's over and over and over. Now, I'm just asking you to be reasonable. So you've got 3 people that have to be lobbied. People have to go up and try to make friends with them. They have to get the, oh, of course, we don't do it that way. Public, or the Chamber of Commerce never calls you. My point is, why deny the public? That's all this is. We want to see what's going on. You're shuffling money all over the place. $500,000 for a good old boys club. Yet you want to deny it. Please, involve the public, just as a change of pace. Thank you very much, and I apologize.
All right, any other comments from the public regarding this item? Item 6 on the consent agenda. Seeing none, any comments from council members? Seeing none, do I have a motion approving final adoption of ordinance 3743-C.S, amending section 2, 1.18, standing committees of the Modesto Municipal Code to include the Cannabis Program and Permit Review Committee as a standing committee of the city?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Ricky, second by Councilmember Wright. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember still off. Okay. Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. Motion carries 6-1 with Councilmember Zalaki.
6-0 with
Excuse me.
Zalaki being absent.
6-0 with the Councilmember Zalaki absent. Thank you. Next to item 8, consent. Consider approving a resolution continuing to authorize remote teleconference meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. Would the city attorney, Jose Sanchez, like to comment on this?
Absolutely, Mayor. So the item before you is a resolution to continue having the option related to the Zoom, to calling in by Zoom for the council. As the council knows, with COVID, the state did declare an emergency. So did the city declare an emergency in 2020. Now this led to the governor having a lot of executive orders that came out, several executive orders. Some of them dealing exactly with this, with how meetings, public meetings that the public can attend, how they were supposed to be conducted. It did, an executive order did suspend the Brown Act requirements that meetings get noticed when individuals are not present, council members are not present. It suspended the requirement of them having to notice the meeting at the place where they were going to hold it. The reason for that is to provide council members the opportunity to participate, let's say by home, for example, if they wanted to shelter in place at the beginning, and then given the COVID continued, the law ended up, by the Assembly bill, ended up coming in new law, allowing for that to continue if the council makes certain findings. And I know that the law sunsets in 2024. There are some findings that the council needs to make. We do need to be in a state of emergency, and the council also has to look and make findings regarding whether we're still in an emergency, whether there have been local health officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, or when the council finds that meetings in person will present imminent risk to the health and safety of attendees. We have continued and will continue to monitor as what the state does regarding the regulations related to, example, mask mandates. I know the county had a meeting about this today. The item that they had was they ended up basically they removed their emergency declaration, but they did state that the emergency declaration was in order to give the county staff the opportunity to spend resources without having to go back to the board supervisors, and they felt as though that wasn't needed at this time, but did state, obviously COVID is still around. When we've been in contact and will be continuing to be in contact with the public health officer, from what we understand, still the same recommendation from September of 2021 stands, where the health officer did have a letter that went out that they did recommend that physical social distancing measures be practiced throughout Stanislaus County communities to minimize the spread of COVID-19, including implementation of newly enacted AB 361 to maintain social distancing by legislative bodies of our local agencies. And the recommendation was made due to the continued threat of COVID-19 to the community. It did state that they would continue to evaluate this recommendation on an ongoing basis and will communicate when there is no longer such a recommendation. We will be following up, of course, with the health officer to see whether that, of course, still stands. As of now, those findings can still be made. And like I said, we'll continue to monitor the situation.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
All right. Any questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public?
Emerson Drake again, I'd like to identify. During the heat of the COVID, and hey, look, my wife's a 30-plus year insulin-dependent diabetic. That's why I wear this especially. I've had the shots. So when I went back and visited my mother, 89 years old, I wore it till I got off the plane, got out of the airport. Didn't take a chance. So I understand why the county and the city and the state say let's use Zoom, and I think we should. I'm not against it. But when I see you push it, and we record it here, but we don't record it others, and I'm not trying to get too far off track here. It reminds me of a friend of mine used to say, well, it's the very least I can do. Well, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with the feel I get from you, it's the very least you can do. Now, I'm asking you again, Zoom is a good start. Record all your meetings. Then we'll continue forward. You can't tell me why you don't. I'd like somebody on the council to say that. Well, the reason we don't is, and we're met with silence. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public regarding item 8? Seeing none, comments from the council?
I just want to say, Madam Mayor, I appreciate the speaker's continued messaging. I'll say it that way, continued messaging about trying to record these standing committee meetings as well. And, you know, I hope we'll be seeing something from staff soon to also capture those meetings and make those available to the public, even if folks can't make it to the live Zoom access, in the same way that we do the YouTube channel for the city council meetings.
Right, thank you. Any other comments from council members?
I agree. I think we should try to make, you know, our meetings as transparent as possible. There's really nothing, I see nothing to hide there, so I don't know why we wouldn't do it. I don't know, it seems like a non-issue to me.
All right, thank you. This is a resolution continuing to authorize remote teleconference meetings of the City of Modesto pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Scudia-Brayton.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wright. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. So motion carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Next, item 12, consider approving the subdivision improvement agreement SIA and final map for the Wood Glen Village Number 2 subdivision consisting of approximately 9.2 acres located between Bangs Avenue, Tully Road, Pellendale Avenue, and Carver Road. And we have Jalen French with us to speak. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So items 12 and 13 are the same. We can likely take them together, not knowing the public comment. But this is part of the development process. In 2019, City Council approved the tentative map. So the tentative map is just the lot configuration of a future residential development. Subsequently, developers will and are required by state law to file and have approved a final map, which includes the infrastructure components associated with those residential development lots. Includes, you know, the utility layout, the grading, those types of things. So subsequently, after the approval of the tentative map for 367 lots, Florsheim Homes and Fitzpatrick Homes had their first phase, the final map, approved, and now this is the second phase of their final map, and there will be subsequent final maps for the remaining phases of this development. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council members?
I do have a quick question.
All right.
So in a typical development such as this size, how many phases is it like, how many phases in general are there?
You know, it depends on a lot of things, depends on how busy they are, you know, how the economy is doing. It can vary. Four to six.
4 to 6, okay. And this is the first of the final map?
This is the second final map.
This is the second final map.
Yeah.
So
So they're under construction with the first phase of development. This will be the second phase of development.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public? Welcome.
Thank you again. This is near and dear to my heart because, quite honestly, I live very close. I've got a series of questions I'll ask you, obviously. If I could give them to you all at once, I would be happy to.
Thank you.
I've got concerns. We froze these fees in 2019. Are these fees going to cover our costs? They will, or I'm sorry. Can I get
Just
answers
go
as I
ahead.
get?
No, go ahead with all your
I
questions.
can't do that, ma'am. If I don't know what I don't know, how can I ask you the questions ahead of time? That does not make sense. Please. So I'm trying to find out. I'll give you a couple of quick ones off the top. I'd like to know if the fees will cover, because quite honestly, I don't think they know. There's only been one time in our history that one of these extensions has paid for itself that we know of. That was Kaiser Hospital, because they paid for everything. I'd like to know how many, if we change the number of houses, the size of the lots. Are these two designations? Because as I recall, there were just one big one. There were two walled units. One was the 4 houses to an acre. Even Jim DiMartini said, what the heck, you can't get away with that. So they used the other side that were going to be apartments to balance it out. So, and we've always got that running thing here in Modesto. Do we build the apartments first? Hell, heck no. I really don't. We build the homes first, and then we go, surprise! So I'd like to know if the two sides, is that the breakdown between the two? Because you're showing us the same area, just different acreage. And I don't know, I'm trying to find out. Are the apartments gonna be the same amount? Are the houses gonna be the same amount? Are we changing the street layouts at all? Because I looked at the ones that were building off of Snyder there, and quite honestly, $500,000 homes, and I can come within just a couple inches of touching them side by side. That close. They put a sidewalk down each side, but now they've got skinny sidewalks. You gotta love Modesto's developers. So are we doing it with the same number of homes and apartments? Are these gonna be separate? Is there even a chance in Hades that we're gonna break even? Because we all know new development does not pay after the 5 or 6 years it's gone. It's a detriment to our side. It costs us money. And from what I saw, there's not a beginner home in the bunch. Now, could I have a couple answers, then reserve like 15 seconds or 20 to ask a follow-up? Would that be fair?
Sure, that would be fine. Why don't you have a seat, and we'll have Mr. French respond.
Yeah, so the first question, the frozen fees, yeah, the way the vesting tentative map process works is it does lock in the fees for that development. Yeah, we have a nexus study that indicates that this will cover our costs. Change the number of houses, balance out. I think the reference there is to what is developed first, the single-family homes or the multifamily homes that is largely market-driven. There is a map that includes both elements in this project. The market and the developers are deciding they would like to develop the single-family homes first. A street layout change, no, not at this point. The tentative map has locked that in. And then it will be the same units, both single-family and multifamily units. That nothing has changed there.
Right. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, from talking to the city before, in prior instances, and not recently on this, you know, they set the numbers and they think everything will go smooth, but then the council gets involved and we start making changes. I'd like to know how many changes they do. And I'd like to know how many changes, because all of a sudden the costs are higher, but we don't get to pass them on. How many changes have we had since 2019? You know, how many times have they changed what they're going to do? And I believe these are both walled places. And what did I tell you? We're going to build the homes first, and then I'm waiting for the people to go, you didn't tell us about the apartments. Because that's the way it always works in Modesto. And what's the average cost of these homes projected? Then I'll leave you alone. Could you answer? Has Modesto built a house less than 400,000? The ones by the mall list at 450 and 5, and they go through 700,000. We talk about having an apartment shortage, a housing shortage, but we're not going to build apartments. We don't care about people that need a place to live. I've got 2 grandsons. They like to live in Modesto. They like to have a place to move to. But where? You don't care. If you did, you'd do something about it. Where are the starter homes? These are single, you know, they don't call them starter, they call them single family. I've looked at those. Again, DMAR, 4 houses per acre, that breaks the rules. It's supposed to. You make special applications to LAFCO to change those, to cater to the developers. Housing is going at a premium that's unbelievable right now, and we're dragging our feet and we're building more huge homes, and the apartments push it off. You can make that decision, but you won't. And I just wanted to be here to have the opportunity to look you in the eye, knowing what you're going to do, and that you're going to come back and say, oh, we tried, but you know those developers.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much for your time.
All right, any other comments from the public? Seeing none. Any comments from council members? Seeing none, this is 2 resolutions. One is resolution approving the subdivision improvement agreement for Woodglen Village 2, subdivision and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the subdivision improvement agreement with the owner, Modesto Roselle LLC. A resolution approving the final map for Woodglen Village 2 subdivision and authorizing the city clerk to certify the final map and record it with the Stanislaus County Recorder's Office. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve both.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion from Vice Mayor Wright. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Canoyer. Will you please call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Wallen?
Aye. So it carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Next is consent item 13. Consider approving the subdivision improvement agreement, SIA, and final map for the Woodglen Village No. 5 subdivision consisting of roughly 8.3 acres located between Bangs Avenue, Tully Road, Pellendale Avenue, and Carver Road. Do we have a report on this item? It's the same as the previous one. Thank you very much. Any questions from the public? Or excuse me, any questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public on item 13?
Madam Mayor, could you tell me how many homes we're building on this second version, on this second item?
I cannot.
Can you ask for assistance?
Yes.
I mean, that was the whole point of pulling it off the calendar, you know?
He's coming forward.
I'm sure he is. He's a good guy.
73 in the second half.
And how, can I backtrack and say how many in the first?
Roughly that same number. I don't have that number.
Okay, I'll go with roughly the same. And the second half, are those single-family homes or those the apartments?
Single family.
There's no apartments at all?
Not in these two maps.
So we're addressing the housing crisis by not addressing the housing crisis. Modesto B, if you're not paying attention, listen up. We're addressing the housing crisis by not addressing the housing crisis. Or, it's the very least you could do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, comments from council members? Seeing none. This again is 2 resolutions. I will read them. Resolution approving the subdivision improvement agreement for Woodglen Village 5 subdivision, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the subdivision improvement agreement with the owner, Modesto Roselle LLC. And second resolution approving the final map for Woodglen Village 5 subdivision and authorizing the city clerk to certify the final map and record it with the Stanislaus County Recorder's Office. Will you please read the roll?
I need a motion first.
I guess we do. A motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Vice Mayor Wright, second by Councilmember Escutia-Brayton. Thank you. Would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Wallen?
Aye. So it carries 6-0.
55 on the first map, 73 on the second, 55 on the first map.
Thank you very much, Mr. French. All right. Did I announce that it carried 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent? Is that correct? All right, on to item 15, consider approving a First Amendment with Badger Meter Incorporated for the purchase of Badger water meters, automated meter readers, and related parts from an annual estimated amount of $600,880 to a new estimated annual amount of $1,500,880 and a new total, and a total revised amount not to exceed from $3,059,022 to $7,504,400 over 5 years, and authorizing the Director of Finance or her designee the ability to add parts based on the department's needs, ensuring the total cost does not exceed the authorized amount. Thank you, Deanna Christensen, for being here this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Deanna Christensen, Director of Finance. The item before you today, as the mayor mentioned, is an amendment increasing the annual amount of about $900,000 to our Badger meter agreement. As stated in the agenda report, the state requirement requires all of our water utility customers to be on water meters. We're pretty much almost close there. There's about 800 meters that are still required to meet the requirement, so we're way above the timeline. Part of the reason for the amendment is now we're, with us having these meters starting all the way since late 90s, we're now running into the, challenge of dealing with standard maintenance and repairs of these meters. So we are, based on what the water operations teams have noticed, pretty much almost about on a monthly basis, there's about 1,000 meters that are having to deal with the repair or maintenance. There's no fault, I want to reiterate, on the actual meters itself. It's just, again, standard maintenance and repairs that would be required just because, again, the useful life of these meters have reached that time period. So I am more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council member questions? Seeing none, comments from the public? Welcome.
Thank you again. I believe most of my, most of my questions were answered. I was wondering whether this was going to finish off the homes that don't have meters. But I want to make sure that we get those taken care of before we start. I know we have to repair anything that's damaged. But I think for some reason, we just keep pushing this back and pushing it back. It can't be that difficult. We got into a lot of areas where we put in meters. In our neighborhood, they put them in. Now we've got the gas company tearing up the roads again, the one we just repaved. But yeah, I guess we don't coordinate our activities. Chewing up the concrete, I mean, it's kind of interesting the way they did, but they were very helpful and very friendly. But I think we need to make sure before we wander off, we need to stay focused, something we've always had issues with. Otherwise, these water meters would be done. Do we have an estimated time that we're going to have all of our houses being water metered? I'm sorry, I look at.
That's all right.
Didn't ask me. Hey.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
A very good question, Mr. Drake. So we are in the home stretch right now. We have about 800 meters left in the system to replace, and those are all residential meters. We estimate that the meters should be installed sometime by early next year.
All right, thank you very much. Any more comments from the public regarding item 15? Seeing none, comments from council? Seeing none, this is a resolution approving a First Amendment with Badger Meter Incorporated for the purchase of Badger water meters, automated meter readers, and related parts from an annual estimated amount of $600,880 to a new estimated annual amount of $1,500,880 and a total revised amount not to exceed from $3,059,022 to $7,504,400 over 5 years, and authorizing the Director of Finance or her designee the ability to add parts based on the department's needs, ensuring the total cost does not exceed the authorized amount. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Ricky, second by Vice Mayor Wright. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye. Motion carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Item 18, consider approving the audited financial statements and various audit reports for fiscal year 2020-2021, audited by external auditors Hudson Henderson and Company, Incorporated, for the city's annual comprehensive financial report, 12 community facilities districts, and various joint power agencies. And we welcome Deanna Christensen back.
Mayor, with your approval, can I actually have the audit partner, Brian Henderson, on Zoom right now, and if he can just give a high-level overview on actually 18, 19, 20, and 21.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
So we completed our audits for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. We issued an unmodified opinion on all the financial statements. An unmodified opinion is a clean opinion that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. Our audit encompassed several different financial statements for the city, the main one being the City Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the city single audit, which is our report of federal expenditures. We also conducted additional audit on Measure L and a compliance audit in regards to that, and then issued additional financial statements for CFDs and various other JPAs of the city as per our auditing contract with the city. We presented these to the audit committee, in which we had some good questions and good discussion, but I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public?
So I'm led to believe that it's my understanding, let's put it that way. This was a complete and thorough audit. He did everything he was supposed to do, contacted all the people. This is more than just a breeze in and breeze out routine. So, Madam Mayor, I'm going to address this to you, but it's actually to the external auditor. Did the previous city clerk express her concerns regarding legal services, billings, redacted statements, approval process issues, and accounting streams during your annual interviews with her, as well as the audit committee meetings? Could I have a response to that?
Yes.
And it is?
Would that be something that we would ask Mr. Henderson to comment on? I'm going to defer to Deanna or...
He's the one that does.
As part of the audit that's performed by the external auditors, they do a risk assessment where they do interviews with certain key staff in regards to just general questions and an opportunity for the staff to voice any things that should be focused on the audit. And the city clerk was included in that risk assessment. So again, I wasn't participating in that discussion, but Brian is more than happy to share anything that he can in regards to that discussion and any results that came out of the audit.
All right, thank you.
Is he going to share? He's on the line. Can we ask him?
I know the answer was yes to your question.
From him. He did talk to him. Okay.
Yes, I'm happy to answer your question if that's allowed. We did perform inquiries as noted, as required per audit standards of various levels of the city. This goes from city council on down to management and staff. When we perform these inquiries, when things arise of concern, we as auditors perform separate procedures and our own follow-up and due diligence and to determine whether or not there's validity to the statements being given to us. I will say that our main focus is to ensure that financial statements are free of material misstatement and fairly presented. While we do consider fraud, abuse, and other items of non-compliance, we don't necessarily issue an opinion on those said items. However, through our various discussions, inquiries, and items of follow-up, we did have discussions, and those did not lead to any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that are to be reported in accordance with government auditing standards.
All right, thank you.
Now, it's my understanding that the auditing firm is legally responsible to report those areas of concern. And I'd like to know who we reported them to, whether it's the city attorney, city manager, or whomever. Because I think one of the reasons why we've had some issues regarding a hostile work environment is because we've seen redacted statements from the city attorney's office through public record requests that were authorized, where they redacted information that they said the public didn't need to know. So my question is, if these concerns were voiced, did he speak out? Because I'll be honest with you, we all remember, and I'm not trying to throw something crazy out there, but we all remember Enron and Arthur Anderson. They didn't report the issues they had. And when somebody tells me that there are audits, there are financial streams, and I want to know who he reported them to, I think that's, as the public, if we're to accept these reports, and that's what we're here for tonight, how can we accept them without knowing who he reported? If there's a concern, you're going to speak about it. So I'm asking, did he report those concerns to anyone, and if so, who?
All right, thank you. Brian, do you have a comment regarding that question?
Yes. Those particular concerns were communicated to management of the city.
That's nice.
And also our results and the items that we looked into as a result of those communications.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, and I'll just repeat my question. I told this wall isn't a response. I asked the individuals that they reported this information to. This should be of concern to all of us. Now, I know some of us are rubber stamps, but that's not the way the citizens of Modesto are supposed to be. Are you hearing me, Modesto B? Pay attention. I'd like to know who they reported it to. Now, could you ask him for a name for me, please, ma'am?
He stated that it was
City
to
management,
city
you said.
management.
That's
Yes.
not satisfactory. That could be anything. No offense, that could be her. I'd like to know who the city management is. I'm a citizen. I paid for it. Can we not be told?
Thank you.
You're not going to tell him? Not going to ask him to?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Deanna, I wondered if you would like to make a comment on this at all?
I'd like to know who he reported it to. That's what's important.
So again, in regards to the risk assessment questionnaire that, again, was discussed and reviewed towards what was presented by the auditors, again, their focus is based on what comes out of those concerns. They do additional audit testing that's performed, and any areas of issues or concerns would then be presented and provided during the presentations that have been already provided to audit committee, as well as anything of concern, again, based on what's stated on these audit reports, would be captured as any significant deficiencies or concerns that would be reported under the audit reports.
All right, thank you.
Again, I'm just going to ask again. Whom did he report it to at city management? He's on the phone. He's on Zoom. Please ask him the simple question for the citizens of Modesto.
All
We
right.
have a right to
Okay,
know.
we will, since your time is up, we are going to ask this one question. Brian, would you like to be any more specific? Mr. Henderson?
I would absolutely like to answer his question. And the only reason why I'm purposely being vague is due to certain confidentiality in regards to this particular interview that he is referring to. And I would like to speak to legal or before I disclose anything that would be or should be held confidential.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And now I'm going to
If
ask,
that's the case, then I would ask you to put off your vote until after we get this resolved. Because quite honestly, Ms. Christensen was reported to her too, on a separate way.
all right, thank you for your comments, and I'm going to,
Ladies and gentlemen, are we not going to get to the truth? You've got an attorney.
Mr. Drake, the mayor had said your time has already been expended. Thank you.
Did she tell you? Is that why we have the hospital?
Mr. Drake, she had already told you that your time is up. Thank you.
The question was answered. It was management. There is the city manager, is management, and I know that our finance director was leading this project, but city management is usually the city manager as well. So the question was answered.
all right, thank you very much. Welcome.
Sebastian Jones. I'm still with Drake. I don't think he's clear. It makes it look like you hiding something. It's public records or whatever the man want to know about the audit. Now, Brian saying this, I gave it to the city manager. Why can't he get a straight answer? What's wrong with that? Make me feel like you're going back.
Sebastian, you'll have to address us, the council.
Is that what it is? Is some secrets going on here? Now don't start that. I know. I just want to see him get his answer, what he wants. And I think while y'all preparing this here, and you send it to the city manager, then he should have got an answer. You guys got these computers here that answer everything. All y'all got computers up there. Lay it out. Just lay it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public regarding item 18? Seeing none, any comments from council members?
So, I have a question. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was waiting for you to.
So to the extent possible, is it just safe to say in response to the previous two speakers' questions about finding out where the buck stopped, if you will? Is it just safe to say that the concerns were reported to the city manager and the city manager was aware of them and that's it? Like, is that something we can, I don't know, is that the basic?
My understanding is
straightforward answer?
I'll try to respond.
Well, if you could, and then if I could just get follow-up response from the city
Sure.
attorney, please, or the city manager, whoever. I just wanted to.
Right. We had access, all of us do, to the audit reports, which were very well laid out by Mr. Henderson in our audit committee as well as previously. So all of any findings were reported. They're there for all of us to look at. But if you would like the city attorney to make a comment, feel free.
And you answered, Mayor, I think the auditor did answer the question regarding city management. City management is the end stops with your city manager. That is city management. And the audit committee did review these audit reports, and any significant findings or anything found by the auditor are in the reports. And I know that that was a presentation that the auditor gave.
So I appreciate it. I just, to the extent that we can answer the questions of the two speakers from the public, I for one wanted us to do so that we're not trying to hide anything as was implied. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from council members? All right, the only comment that I will make is I read the reports. I don't feel that anything was being hidden. I feel like, and I know our questions were answered tonight, so I appreciate everyone participating. So we have a resolution approving the audited financial statements and various audit reports for fiscal year 2020-21 audited by external auditors Hudson, Henderson and Company Incorporated for the city's annual comprehensive financial report, 12 community facilities districts and various joint powers agencies. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Motion by Councilmember Canoyer.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Wright. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Waller?
Aye. Carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. We'll go on to item 19, consider approving the auditor's reports and schedule of Measure L program revenues and expenditures for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. Could we have a staff report, or do you feel like, okay, you've given that information. All right. Any questions from council members? No questions from council members. Comments from the public? This is on item 19, correct? Yeah.
You know, I'm curious. We used to have a committee that was supposed to oversee Measure L to make sure everything was spent appropriately, and I don't see them there. I know you had one, and Councilman Zalaki got all offended that they actually wanted to try to guide a little bit so the public could have some input as to where we spent the money instead of just the council. He was offended by that because Stancog wanted to take the tax money we had and spend it where they wanted to spend it. And you know, your last vote in this shows us why we need an independent auditor with teeth. Measure L. I drive around the city, there's potholes, everybody complains. Now, I know if you call your city council person, and they'll whisper to City Manager Lopez. Now, sometimes they'll run and take care of it like they do the trees. Do we do it methodically? Do we do it so it's most efficient? No. We try to make sure the council has people so they can, talk to their constituents and say, see, we're taking care of you. But I'd like to know, first I want a public record request on the information that he gave you and your response to him on that last item. I'll make it complete tomorrow, but if he made exceptions, that there were questions, I expect to have them documented, and I expect to see them responded to. It'd be fun to have you guys in a court of law with a real auditor. It'd be interesting to see how it came out when you got to pose and ask questions. Now, I would be concerned if I was you about what's going on. Measure L's only so-so. But I think we're tired of turning over money to people that don't care where it goes. It'll take somebody else's word for it. You're going to try to hit us up for more money. You want another one so we can do our trees. But where do we do? There's a guy back there taking money from the tree fund. Or is that the sewer fund? I can never remember which. I love it when there's accountability, even though you do your best to play tough on it. I'm curious why that subcommittee isn't here, or somebody didn't mention where these funds went. Because if he did the same in-depth audit, when it showed discrepancies, it showed, can you imagine doing an audit and the items are blocked off so you can't see it? They can't tell you how much money was there. They can't even tell you where it went or who it went to. And they approved it. And when somebody spoke up, what happened to them? You guys ran them out of town practically. Talk about a hostile work environment. There ought to be some, I pointed out before, we don't have anybody right now to go to. If there's a concern about the money in this town, you have to tell the city attorney or the city manager, two of the people who are the closest to the funds. Let's put it that way. Thank you very much. And I'm going to do it the next 2 times too. You might as well get used to it because you're going to be accountable one way or another.
All right, any other comments from the public? Seeing none, any questions from council members? All right, Councilmember Canoyer.
I just want to make a statement. There is a Measure L council that from the city with appointed people that do submit a report to Stancog. So he can, if he looks it up, there is a committee, a Measure L committee.
Right, thank you very much. Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Madrigal?
No.
No? All right. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2020-2021 auditor's report on compliance of the Measure L Local Roads First Transportation Funding Measure. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Vice Mayor Wright.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Madrigal. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Escudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Item 20, consider approving the auditor's reports and schedule of passenger facility charge revenues and expenditures for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. We've already had a report regarding our auditor's reports. Any questions from council members regarding item 20? Seeing none, comments from the public?
Emerson Drake again. We've already established that some of their procedures are questionable. When you report it to the city manager, apparently the city attorney wasn't involved, but did he say anything to you? Did he write a report? Did he make anybody aware of what might have been going on or the concerns of a highly placed person that had been serving the city of Modesto well for years? But they spoke out, a whistleblower. And all of a sudden, they start getting trashed. Because that's what it looks like to the public. And that's why you bring a lapdog of an auditor. You know, if he finds something wrong, he's not going to get invited back. That's the whole point of having an independent auditor. Well, you can get upset with him, but at least you'll find out what the truth is. Well, if he handled each of these the way he did that first one, how is there any validity to any of it? How do we know? I'm sure, I don't want to single anybody out, if you had a business of your own and one of your valued employees came up, one that had been with you a long time and expressed some concerns about information streams or about what this means, why is it blocked out, surely you would look into it. I don't have anybody, it's not fair to point in, you aren't all business owners, so I'm not going to say anything. But I know if it's your money, you care. I know if it's my money, and it is my money. It's the public's money. And by sweeping it under the rug, well, there were issues were addressed. What were those issues? How do you explain items if they don't tell you where the money went? How do you explain that? Now, I know for some of you, it doesn't matter. We're waiting, they're going to vote, they're going to get the rubber stamp out. I expect that. We've seen it for 9 years now in some cases. But I would expect more. You know, I guess in order to get a straight answer, I got to pick up the phone and talk to Bill Lyons. Maybe he can give us some information. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get a straight answer out of this city council anymore. Some don't care. Some don't know what to do, but they do care. Others say, well, I got a $17,000 raise. It just doesn't matter because I did such a good job. Well, according to this, according to what we heard, excuse me, that good job was hiding the information from you. Did he tell you about it? I guarantee that those concerns aren't in the audit. They just tell you what a great job the auditing firm did. That's all. Arthur Anderson, like Enron, too. They were exceptional. They were making money. Well, not really. It's beside the point. The city of Modesto expects better. Apparently, that's not resonating here. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Any other members of the public? Welcome.
Just a quick question. Mayor, it's been a long time, but do we have an in-house auditor? In-house?
That position is currently not filled.
You know, I think if we put that and let the voters vote on an in-house audit, that way you guys can't fire. So it's something to consider, Mayor. Instead of you guys going out, that's what happened 2 or 3 years ago when the young lady found some big money misuse and they dumped her, but they paid for it though. But I think that the city council need to put this on and let the voters and whoever's interested in it that's qualified and the voters vote for them. That way, that person is free and don't have to worry about getting fired if they find something ain't right. So, Mayor, I'm glad you're in that position, but it's something to think about because it's been years since we had one, and then we finally get one, and they stay 6 months or whatever. So I think it should be left up to the voters. When we have a vote, and they do 2 years or 4 years, deal. It's something to consider. Because if you hire one, you have a right to fire one. No, it wouldn't be fair. This is sad right here. Here we going down this road again. But it's something to think about, council, is let's try to put an auditor on the ballot and let the city of Modesto vote for the man or the woman for the best job. And that would be fair. Thank you for your time.
All right, you're welcome. Any other comments from members of the public regarding item 20? Seeing none?
I just want to say, Sebastian, you can't suck on a lollipop unless you bring one for everyone next time.
Okay. All right, thank
All
you.
right.
Any other comments?
I don't want one.
All right, seeing none, we have a resolution approving the auditor's reports and schedule of passenger facility charge revenues and expenditures for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021, prepared by external auditors Hudson, Henderson and Company Incorporated. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Wright, second
Second.
by Councilmember Escudia Brayton. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Reiki.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen.
Aye, carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we get a bio break after this next one, which
Yes.
is the last one?
Why don't we
second
take
that.
it right now and return at 8 o'clock?
Oh, okay.
All right. 6 minutes. I should have done that without having to be asked. We will resume. We will resume with item 21. Consider approving the fiscal year 2020-2021 single audit report for the City of Modesto from external auditors Hudson, Henderson and Company Incorporated. We've had our report regarding the audits. So are there any questions from council members? Seeing none, comments from the public?
Evening again. You know, I even created questions for myself tonight. Can you trust an audit that you don't know the answers to? I mean, we get on paper, but when an auditor has a question, a concern, you have to treat it like a whistleblower. Who's the whistleblower? Or not who's the whistleblower, but who's the person that gets that complaint? Well, it should be an auditor, but it's not. I think in that workshop the other day, you even pushed back against Chris Tyler wanting an auditor. You gave him a little trouble. You don't want an independent auditor with teeth. You don't want somebody that's going to tell the truth whether it kind of messes you up or not. I don't know how we can trust a city attorney or a city manager to hear the whistleblowing complaints when obviously they're part of it, especially over potential financial problems. Now, surely this is documented, that he had issues, that he had doubts, that someone brought concerns to him, concerns that are, again, if it's redacted and you're not willing to tell me where the money went, don't be reaching into my pocket to pay the piper. But, you know, Councilman Wright doesn't care. He's just going to go, oh, Councilman, or my city manager's a great man. Doesn't matter what might have happened. Doesn't matter that he didn't speak out. Shouldn't he have voiced concern to everyone? Is there anyone he voiced concern to? I know our previous city clerk did. She spoke out. She pointed out some of the issues. And some people played games. You know, it was like when we had a city auditor before. She had a question regarding the city attorney. And what they do? They stopped meeting with her. There's not a single email that they've turned over that says they were willing to meet after the city attorney wrote a scathing letter to the city council. Despite the fact that they had gone to both sides of the aisle, if you will. Councilman Ridenhour was one of the first ones that received that letter of concern. Yet they turned around and built walls. Then they turned around and started complaining, well, we don't know what time the agendas are going to be posted, and we all know the city attorney has to approve before they can get it posted. Now, the city manager is involved with spending our money, keeping an eye on things. We have to wonder how often that he's doing special favors for people off the books because he doesn't like emails. You know, I don't trust anybody that doesn't like emails. If you're handling my money, I want to watch you through it step after step after step. Because we've asked for emails before. And we see the average flow. I'm willing to bet, if I do that, I'll get arrested for betting. I'd be willing to wager, cup of coffee, that our city manager generates fewer emails than any city manager of a city same size as ours in this state. I think I wouldn't have a problem with that. But you sit here and you go along, and I appreciate some of the support. I know you have to go along to get along because this is Modesto. And if you want them to do a favor for you, you have to do a favor for them. But that doesn't sit well outside the Beltway. That doesn't sit well, outside of the downtown where you keep passing out hundreds of thousands of dollars to your friends.
Your time has expired.
I'm not surprised you mentioned it either. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. All right.
I love America. Sebastian Jones, community activist. I love America. Freedom, baby. I'm going to say the same thing, Mayor. I think that you being the leader, and we have the councils here, think that we should start working on an independent audit and putting it on the ballot. I think we really should, Mayor. Just like Ms. Emmerich was saying, stating that if he reports something like what happened 2 or 3 years ago, we don't need that. That's what's been going on in this town. And the people, I'm a taxpayer. Everybody in this room, I buy a bag of potato chips, soda, and I pay some tax on that. I even pay tax on used tire. So I'm part of this. But I really think, Mayor, that this body need to get together and say, you know, we need an audit in-house or whatever, but let's let it be fair. Let the voters, and then that way he or she has to answer to the people, not to you guys. And that's fair. You guys are shut him down or shut her down. And that's not fair. If they find what, and I bet you the city will run real good then, the money be counted for or whatever, you know, the excess spending would be cut out and a lot of stuff. There won't be no buddy thing, you know, like I need 20 million over here, you know. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I've been around a long time. I know some things too. But I urge you, Mayor, to understand what Sebastian J. Jones is trying to state. I don't know how they do this stuff, but I think that it need to be talked about and put this on the track so we can have, and we ain't got to be spending all this money. That ain't 5 minutes. But we don't got to be spending all this money hiring this person, and next thing you know, this person charging $100,000 or whatever. Then this other person come in, he charging $200,000. No, the voters have spoken, and they voted for whoever. And it's fair. It's really fair. So I think that to be successful, to create something, I think that this need to be created. If you look at all the years that you had an audit, look, years have went by. Years have went by. Then we finally get one. Didn't last, I don't know, 8 months, I guess. I'm about through. Was that you over there, David? Bamming on something? Oh, okay. I thought you was hitting on something. But anyway, Mayor, I urge that this body here, let's do the right thing, see if we can get this on the ballot or whatever, how they do it. I don't know nothing about that. But I urge you to be successful, and that way it'd be fair for the city of Modesto. Thank you for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to speak on item 21? Seeing none, any comments from the council? Tony Madrigal?
Did I push the wrong button?
No, you pushed my button. It's okay.
Okay, Chris Rickey?
I think that it's important to just state here that I think everyone on the council wants us to get an auditor going, and it's something that's going to happen. So that's all I want to say about that.
All right, thank you for your comment. Seeing no more comments from council members, would the clerk call the roll?
I need a motion.
Oh, brother.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that. We have a motion from Vice Mayor Wright.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Escudia Brayton. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen.
All right, 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Next, we will go on to consent item 26. This is consider approving the First Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the La Loma Neighborhood Association and the City of Modesto for the Native Plant Garden on Encina Avenue and extending the term of the MOU from March 28, 2022 to March 28, 2027. And we have our director of this department, Lori Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Zwallen, members of the City Council. Lori Smith, Director, Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods. As stated in the staff report, we've had quite a long relationship with the Loma Neighborhood Association, entered into an MOU in 2017 for the installation of the native garden at that time, and in the MOU, the responsibilities of the association and the city were outlined. The city was primarily responsible for water, tree trimming as needed, picking up the green waste and the trash. And what this item does is it extends the MOU for an additional 5 years, and it increases the city's responsibility by adding 2 garden maintenance services per year, using 2 maintenance staff at 8 hours each. Total additional cost of that is $1,413. And this item went to Finance Committee on February 14th.
All right, thank you for your report. Any questions from council members? I think Council Member Ricky's name is still there from the previous time. There we go. All right, I don't see any questions. Any comments from the public?
Good evening again. I'm surprised to see Councilman Zalaki is not weighing in since it's his area, but you know, I've got a couple concerns about this. I see we're tying up city maintenance staff again. Could someone tell me how many tree trimmers we actually have in the city of Modesto? Since we're going to be using them at this, I figure it's a fair question.
Right, I'm not sure that anyone is here this evening that can give that answer, but if we could get back to you with that.
You know, one reason I ask that, because it seems that we're going to be tying up their time. And I really don't have too much against that, except that, you know, I've had a tree for 25 years. It's the second one, I think, out in front of my home. And we've had, it's so bad with mistletoe, just one big chunk, it's dying. Just 25, I think it's like 25 years old. It's dying, but before it got to this point, it managed to raise the sidewalk in front of the house about a foot and a half. You've put a little asphalt in to round it out, but not to repair it. So I just start wondering, because I was driving, quite honestly, and I was in Councilman Madrigal's area the last few days taking a young child to school. And it's amazing the amount of mistletoe that I see along the streets. You know, to sit there and to take people away for La Loma, okay. Let them employ somebody. You know, the rest of us, and I think all of you hear from your constituents wanting some of that mistletoe cut down, and we only have so many trimmers, to direct them at extemporaneous garden. We don't have to have that. Now, the rest of us have to have a tree in our front yard. You know, all we wanted was the mistletoe cut down so we could have this beautiful tree. But now it's probably too late to save the tree. But you know, they're going to be trimming the garden in La Loma. You know, it's just sad that we do these special favors for neighborhoods, especially that seem to have a lot of money. They don't seem to have issues like that. And I realize that Councilwoman Escutia Braden's, you know, she's my representative. Apparently, she doesn't whisper in anybody's ear. I wouldn't know, because she won't return my wife's emails. So I don't know what to tell you about that. You know, we're voters. Apparently that doesn't matter too much either. So I'm going to ask you just to think for a minute. I know you're going to approve it. You always do. That's not a problem. But I'm going to, let's take care of everybody fairly across the board. The woman that lives next to my wife, or my daughter, flagged down a city worker. They brought him, they saw him cutting it, or working on a tree, cutting it down. They were kind enough, I'm not going to say any names, they were kind enough to come over and assist her. Now, this woman's in her 70s, and not real handy with a chainsaw. So I want to thank the city workers. I've never had an issue with the city workers. It's just sometimes we're so busy playing favorites that we don't take care of business the way we should. But that's the Modesto City Council. You go along to get along. Or what's the other line? Them that have the money make the rules. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I wanted to clarify that what we're adding are maintenance workers, not tree trimmers.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Sebastian Jones. It was $1,400.
Yep.
That's every year. Ain't it? Okay. So it come out about $7,000 for the year 27, right? Yeah. Okay. Now what about the increase? Things go up.
All right, Sebastian, if you could direct your questions. And if you can.
I am so sorry. That's rude of me. It's just I have it.
Right.
Well, she was saying it was $1,400 a year, Mayor. And it come out to about $7, I guess, somewhere around there. But things go up between that time. Like gas is up. So, do they come back in and say they need an increase?
If there's any changes, that things come back to the council for increases.
I never heard of this right here. What do they do over there in this neighborhood?
Would you like to know specifically about what will happen in this garden?
Yeah.
In that area? All right, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you, Mayor.
Uh-huh.
So the La Loma, the native garden is on Encina Avenue, and I would invite you to take a drive over there. It's very beautiful. It was designed and constructed by the La Loma Neighborhood Association members and contains a lot of native plant and plantings, and it's primarily maintained by the association. And they have done a great job of adding beauty to Encina Avenue on that location.
Well, can we get something like that on the west side?
We'd be happy to work with any organization in any location in the city to develop or beautify their neighborhood. And the Loma Neighborhood Association approached the city about this endeavor several years ago, and we worked with them to create a partnership and we work with many organizations throughout the city to do this kind of thing as well.
Okay, I'll put you up on the test on it. Okay, if you're willing to help us on the west and south Modesto, I like gardens. I just like to make it even, playing field. So, okay, sounds good. I'm for it.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from members of the public? I don't see any in person or online. Any comments from council members? Councilmember Madrigal.
Just following up on the previous speaker's request, I just want to say, frankly speaking, there's a lot of folks that have financial challenges in West and South Modesto. And so to the extent that it's possible, if staff could explore tapping into some of the previously approved, I think the city manager called them buckets of funding for either neighborhood improvement or neighborhood safety. Just wanted to put that idea out there as something that could be brought as an additional resource. I completely understand, and I hope the previous speaker completely understands that the La Loma Neighborhood Association, they pooled their money together a long time ago. And they approached the city and they said, we will pay for this and we will take care of this. And it's an agreement between the city and this neighborhood association to maintain this, because we're basically talking about maintenance of a public space, such as a park, for example. So if we want to explore something like that in West or South Modesto, for example, you know, I mean, it sounds exciting, but I'm just worried that the neighborhoods in those parts of town just may not have the resources to come together in the same way that the La Loma Neighborhood Association was able to. And so if there's a will of the neighborhood that the previous speaker mentioned, that Mr. Jones mentioned, well, then that's great. Maybe it's just a matter of resources. And so that's why I wanted to put this request out there. I'm daring to think creatively and think out loud, if you will. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Ricky?
I just wanted to say, this deal that was created between the city and La Loma, I think really is a good example of what we should be shooting for. It's the city and the people working together to do something really beautiful. So I think that this is the kind of partnership that we should be encouraging. It's an incredibly, like, in terms of value for what we're getting. I mean, if you've seen this park, it's not even in my district, but I've driven by it a few times, and it's like, it's really striking. $1,400 a year to take care of it? Like, I mean, that's incredible. So I think it's a really great job by staff, and we should be just really proud of the work they did on this.
All right, thank you. Any other council members? Councilmember Canoyer?
Yes, I believe that on the west side, that the Helen White Trail, which could be very beautiful if kept up, was basically given to the west side, and they didn't have to put any money into it. So it, you know, it was, when it was done, it was looked beautiful. It's just that hard, apparently it's hard for the people to keep that up, and they do have, I think, from time to time, people going through and cleaning it up, but it takes a public-private partnership to keep something up. And you know, the Helen White Trail could be a beautiful trail.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments from council members? Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Madrigal.
I just want to follow up on Councilmember Canoyer's comments. I appreciate her bringing up the Helen White Trail as a good example of what could be. You know, if only their, I'm just going to call them their public safety issues, you know, could be somehow kept at bay with specific camping and vandalism and destruction that they face on a weekly basis. I agree that could be a very beautiful public space, public trail, and you know, in my experience, every time we've had a Love Modesto event where we do some beautification planting of plants that you know have been either donated or purchased by a donor. They don't last long, and so nevertheless, it is a good example of what could be, and maybe some other creative investment of other beautification or vegetation of some sort could be the answer. I've always been a fan of those flowering cactuses, for example. Okay, yep, I said it.
All right, thank you for your comments. This is a resolution approving the First Amendment of the Memorandum of Understanding between the La Loma Neighborhood Association and the City of Modesto for the Native Plant Garden on Encina Avenue, extending the term of the MOU from March 28, 2022 to March 28, 2027, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the MOU. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Madrigal, second by Councilmember Ricky. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Escudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer? Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye, carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Councilmember Madrigal?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to correct myself. I said the plural of cactus incorrectly. It's cacti.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for that clarification. Next is council comments and reports. Do any of the council members have any comments and reports? Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. I've been dealing with illegally parked cars on Gear Court and Helen and Francis for months now, and we've just had local car dealers using the neighborhoods as kind of space for their inventory that doesn't fit on their lots. And one dealer literally built a gate in their back fence so they could access their inventory that they had parked in the neighborhood. So ultimately that door was removed, but then this car dealer, they're so disrespectful that they literally got a ladder and put it and leaned it up against this fence so they could climb over and park their cars. But just like that ladder, these car dealers are finding other ways around the law so that they can park their inventory in neighborhoods, for less days, just to kind of, avoid towing and stuff like that. It's not the intention of the law, So I think it's time to kind of end this game once and for all. I believe we need a new ordinance to prevent just car dealers in general from parking their inventory in neighborhoods. If you're a dealer and you need space to house your cars, you need to rent another lot. I mean, you don't make my front yard, your used car lot. It's just not cool. I also want to thank all the neighbors that live around Gear Court and Francis and Helen. And I just want to thank you guys, because all of us at the city, we really appreciate, the way you've communicated with us, the way that you've been patient with us. Together, we're going to work together, and we're just going to get this thing done. I also want to talk a little bit about commercial buildings that have been blighted and kind of abandoned. Quite a bit of our community is really concerned about this. And it's really hard to believe, but a lot of these buildings actually have active leases and are generating rent. And the way that a lot of these buildings are maintained is just really unacceptable. They generate graffiti, trash, squatting. And so I'm also looking forward to our city kind of creating an ordinance to hold landlords accountable and just improve our city's livability. And finally, our RAD card was incredibly successful. All of us have received dozens of letters from business owners asking us to find, a long-term funding solution to keep it's a good program to keep it going. So I'm hoping that we can try to find a long-term funding solution for it somehow. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's something I'm hoping we can do. Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you. So I wanted to also bring up the RAD card program. We all first received a letter from the owner of Fuzio's, the restaurant right outside of City Hall out here on 10th Street. And since then, we as council members have received multiple letters urging support, urging another round of RAD card funding so that they can get by these next few months. As some of you know, we're not fully out of, well, I'm sure we all know, we're not fully out of the winter period yet. A lot of these businesses are still hurting. The RAD card funding that we approved last time, it went very quickly, and it helps sustain a lot of the businesses here in downtown and in other parts of Modesto where they did apply. It helps sustain them, and we are now faced with small businesses that are once again asking the city to help, and they're not asking for a handout. They're asking for support for their customers, to incentivize them to go out and spend at their businesses, in this case at their restaurants or at their shops. And so I feel this is a very urgent issue, and to that effect, like to make a motion that we direct staff to bring back RAD card funding to the next available council agenda or the appropriate policy committee, standing committee. I welcome a second.
I'll second that.
My understanding is this, it's not on the agenda. It's a discussion that will go forward with American Rescue Plan discussions in the future, as well as our budget meetings. So to me, it seems like that's a future discussion. Whether we could take a vote at this moment in time, I don't even know.
It's on the agenda. We can't discuss
Pardon me,
it.
okay, so it's not on the agenda. That's
Yep.
my understanding, my training, and
Point
all
of
that I
order.
know about governance. So we can't discuss it. It has to come back in another way, as I mentioned.
So, point of order, my motion wasn't to place, my motion wasn't to approve this item in any way. It was to direct staff to place something on a future agenda, which is something that we've done before during council comments. I don't understand if the city attorney doesn't remember, but this is a common practice, and I've been advised that when we make a motion to place something on a future agenda, it's like a scheduling motion. It's not that we're saying we're going to approve something or not.
So Councilmember Madrigal, it's not that the city attorney doesn't remember. My comment was that as long as we don't discuss the item, I didn't say anything related to placing an item on the agenda. As the
Okay.
mayor mentioned, we can't discuss the item, so I know that you've had several, you've discussed it. I know Councilmember Ricky has discussed the item. You guys have said what you guys thought about it. So now we're on the verge of having a discussion about the RAD program, so I think the mayor was just trying to stop that discussion. Now, if you just want to place an item for a future agenda, then that's something that I think is being requested.
So therefore, is my motion in order?
I do not feel comfortable taking a vote on a motion that I can't discuss. So therefore.
So I guess my question is, are we legally allowed to vote on this at this moment in time?
So yes.
Scheduling,
Okay.
You're legally allowed to vote on just scheduling. But again, the scheduling is just, we will discuss an item at a future agenda. Here's what I would like to place on a future agenda. The caution the mayor had was in the discussion of placing an item on the agenda, you can't just go too far in already having the discussion. Does that make sense, Mr. Madrigal?
I didn't feel that I did. I felt that I was being responsive, to communications from local businesses, and therefore I was attempting to place something on a future agenda.
Correct, just explaining what the mayor said.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
And I would just like to note that our first allocation of the ARPA funding has already been fully allocated, and we are currently working on year 2 spending plan, and we will not be receiving those funds until May. So I just want to make that point clear.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk read the roll, please?
Councilmember Escutia Brayton?
No.
Councilmember Madrigal?
aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
No.
Councilmember Wright?
No.
Mayor Zwollen?
No. So the vote is 4
4 to 2.
to 4 to 2.
The motion does not pass.
All right. Any other comments
Yeah,
from council members, comments and reports?
Yes, just wanted to, I just had additional comments I wanted to make regarding my previous request to get the information about the update on the status of the video surveillance cameras. We still haven't received that update at the council level. I don't know why such a report cannot be made at a future council meeting as a quick presentation, especially since the information in the report was already produced by city staff. If I could get either an explanation from our city attorney or the appropriate city staff person, it'd be most appreciative. I think very useful information. We're talking about, you know, abating blight, cleaning up trash in our neighborhoods, preventing illegal dumping, and getting an update on what's the status of these cameras. You know, it doesn't seem like it does not seem like it's a unreasonable request to me.
And that's not my item, Councilwoman.
All right. Thank you for your comments.
Am
Any other?
I going to get a response?
Uh-huh.
I'd like somebody from staff to give
All
me a
right.
response
Yeah.
as to why
Please
this can't be
respond.
brought to a council meeting.
Okay.
Councilmember Madrigal, the decision was made to take it to committee because that's the appropriate place to vet items such of that nature, just like we do with crime reports and other areas of interest. We want the committees to do that work, and if there's any changes to the programs or any recommended additional cameras or things of that nature, then that item would be brought to council for further action. We want to use the committees in that way to help us do the work of the city, and that's why the presentation was brought to the committee, and that is still going to maintain to be my preference because that's where the work can actually be done prior to council action.
And I completely understand all of that, Mr. City Manager, but I'm not asking for additional discussion or whatnot. I'm just asking for a status update, a report. I'll even publicly say, I'm not going to ask for more things when the report's being made. I just want to hear what is the status of the video surveillance cameras that will hopefully be placed at the illegal trash dumping hotspots throughout the city of Modesto. Give us a report, bring it to a council meeting. It'll be quick. I'll keep quiet.
The report was given to the Safety and Communities meeting, and it was open to the public at that time.
So you're saying that's my only, if I miss the meeting, then that's just tough for me? I don't understand. I'm making a request.
I'd be happy to brief you one-on-one if that's your preference.
I wanted to be brief one-on-one, and I also wanted to be, have this report presented at a council meeting for the benefit of the public. I mean, that was the big, one of the big impetuses behind this. I urge the city manager to reconsider. I urge the mayor to reconsider, and let's just place this on a future agenda. It doesn't seem like it's an unreasonable request, and I'm asking for information to be presented. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you. Any other council comments or reports? Councilmember Ricky, is yours still on? Okay, no other. I'll just make one comment at this time, which applies somewhat to what we've been discussing tonight, and that is that I am working with the city attorney to have an item on every agenda where we can discuss future agenda items to bring forth to the council. And we are working on making this process smoother and so that everyone is heard and that we all have the opportunity to bring agenda items forward that are important to us. That's my comment and report. Next, we will have city manager comments and reports. Does the city manager?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment to thank our Deputy City Manager, Kula Barnes. This is her last council meeting. And while she was here for a couple years, she made a profound impact on our organization. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Also, our Chief Information Officer, Charlie Haas, who's not here as well. This was his last meeting, and I'd like to also thank him for his service and time for here in the city of Modesto. Both had a great impact on our organization, and just want to thank them for their service.
Thank you, Kalua.
Thank you.
She liked Reese's Pieces, if you want to get her something, so.
Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Next on the agenda is hearings. This is item 30, hearing to consider approving a capital facilities fees exemption agreement in the amount of $55,809.60 with Stanislaus Equity Partners Community Development Corporation for a 7-unit project located at 112 James Street. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Peter Ibrahim, Infrastructure Financing Program Supervisor, Community and Economic Development Department. The item before you tonight for consideration is a CFF exemption agreement for the project at 112 James Street in Modesto. Just a little bit of background on our capital facility fees program. The program was established in 1987 to mitigate the impacts of new development. These fees are assessed on all new construction and is based on specific land use categories and is collected at the time of building permit issuance. These fee exemptions, as allowed in the policies and procedures, are provided to foster the development of residential units affordable to very low and low-income housing of those below 50% of the area median income. A little bit on project background. This is new construction of 7 affordable housing units for behavioral health and recovery services, BHRS clients, who are at risk or experiencing homelessness. These units will be made affordable to households earning 30% or less of the area median income. And the property consists of 7 units. So it's 1 one-bedroom, 4 two-bedroom, and 2 three-bedroom. The CFF exemption application that was submitted to staff complies with the city's CFF policies and procedures to foster the development of residential units affordable to very low-income individuals, as well as certain qualifying residential units affordable to low-income households. Now, approving this CFF exemption will result in exemption of $55,809.60 in capital facility fees, and this is not an impact to the general fund. The total project cost is $1.7 million. And this slide here shows a photo of the project as well as the map of the project location. So this is adjacent to the Modesto DMV that's just on Burden. This slide here talks about the timeline of this exemption application. So on January 13th, the Citizens Housing and Community Development Committee approved submittal of the Home Key 2.0 project application for this project at 112 James Street. Stanislaus Equity Partners, CDC, also known as STEP, submitted a CFF exemption application for the project at 112 James. On February 8th, the City of Modesto Citizens Housing and Community Development Committee approved the CFF exemption application, and this meeting has been noticed, this item has been noticed, this public hearing has been noticed in the Modesto Bee on February 21st, 2022. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that report. Are there any questions from council members? Council Member Escudero Brayton.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. That's fantastic. Good news. What is the, how is the application, the opportunity to apply being given, how is the opportunity to apply for the right people being done? I heard you say you were putting it in the newspaper. Is that the only outreach?
The newspaper reference was in regards to the public hearing for tonight, so this item has to be noticed publicly. In regards to an exemption application, it's offered on our website, and so those who are qualified to apply for an exemption, for a CFF exemption, do apply, and staff reviews that, and then it has to go to a committee and then to council, ultimately to council.
And then once the application for exemption is received, how is the selection going to be made?
The selection is based, we compare that at least to the guidelines that are in the policies and procedures to see if these units do actually qualify for 50%, 60, I think it's 50% below AMI.
Okay, so is there going to be any level of priority, or just you qualify, you don't?
No, there's no level of priority now. As long as they comply per the CFF policies and procedures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions from council members? All right, any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? I don't see anybody in person or online. Any comments from council members? I'll make one brief comment. This is great news. That was a beautiful report. I'm just really excited to see this project be built, and there's a great need in our community, and this is one step towards making a difference. And I've always said that the people that we see on the streets, it's one by one. We work to do the best that we can to help them and assist them to find a home. So I'm very excited about this, and thank you so much for your report and your work.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so this is oh, excuse me, where am I? I'm so excited about this. I lost my spot. Okay, we have a resolution approving a capital facility fees exemption agreement in the amount of $55,809.60 with Stanislaus Equity Partners, CDC, for the 7-unit project located at 112 James Street, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Wright.
Second by
Second by Councilmember Madrigal. Will the clerk read the roll, please?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwollen?
Aye. Carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. All right. Next is item 32. Consider approving accepting funds from the California Water and Wastewater, however you say that word. Arrearage? Arrearage. That makes sense, just like it's written. Payment program for drinking water arrearage in an amount not to exceed $2,716,416, and authorizing the submission of an application to the CWWAPP for the wastewater arrearage amount estimated at $4,215,784. And welcome, Ms. Christensen.
So good evening, Mayor, council members. So another great story to share in regards to the California Water and Arrears Payment Program. So just to provide some background, so with all the challenges faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor of California had proclaimed a variety of state of emergencies dating back to March 4th of 2020. In addition to that, emergency orders were issued, as well as an executive order that prohibited utility systems from being able to discontinue water service due to lack of payment, which I do want to acknowledge has expired as of September 30th of 2021. With the governor issuing these various executive order, obviously the goal is to help with the economic impacts that have occurred due to COVID, and triggering, unfortunately, Modesto utility customers to be able to pay their water and wastewater bills based on the financial struggles that are occurring from the pandemic. With seeing the uncollection, we also within Modesto utility systems have seen a drastic increase in our delinquency related to the past due accounts that we're seeing both for water and the wastewater fund. But the great news is with all of the variety of federal funding that's been issued, the federal government did issue funding, as well as define an Assembly bill and Senate bill that did direct State of California to establish the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Program. Over nearly $1 billion was issued to help administer this program, and the goal was to help the utility systems here in California to address the delinquency associated with this utility customer debt. So just to give you some background in regards to the timeline, so the first tranche of funding was focused only on the water delinquency debt. So the City of Modesto submitted our application to identify the delinquency of debt that we have here in Modesto. That was submitted on September 10th of 2021. City of Modesto was notified by the state in early December that we would be approved the funding. As of January 28th, 2022, we did receive the funding in the amount of $2.7 million. And that again was to address the water debt, and it's specifically associated with the water debt for the period of March 4th of 2020 to June 15th of 2021. Based on receiving the payment on January 28th, the City of Modesto is required to apply this credit on their customers' accounts within 60 days of receipt of that funding, which gets us to March 28th of 2022. The utility billing staff within the finance department, in coordination with our IT department and a consultant that we have that specializes with our utility billing system, have been working diligently. And we are anticipating that we will be posting the credit on the customers' accounts this week. And the goal will be that we will be sending out a letter that will provide more information and the details of that credit that's been applied to the customer's account by next week. Part of receiving this funding, there are a variety of program requirements that we are required to comply with. The first one is we are required to waive all the late fee arrears associated with the payment for that specific period that I mentioned earlier. Again, we're supposed to notify the customers about the credit, which we do anticipate to send out the letter by next week. In that communication letter, the goal also in that communication is to inform the customer that if they have further delinquency for after that period, to reach out to the customer service team to establish a payment plan to, again, get the customer into a good payment status and to eliminate them going into the delinquency area. And the goal is to try to enroll the payment plan with the customers within the 30-day time period. So again, just to reiterate next steps, our goal is to apply the credit on the customer's account for, again, the water portion of the funding we received by this week. A letter will be provided to the customer that will provide them the dollar amount that they will see on their account that was been credited, as well as just providing them some information about where the funding is coming from that's been applied to their account. There is discussion again about the decision on when the city will move forward with water shutoffs. At this time, we don't anticipate doing anything at this point, because as I also have captured, there's also a second allotment of funding that will come for the wastewater portion of the REARS program. Applications have opened. The deadline is April 1st of 2022. Staff, again, is working diligently to fill out the application, and our goal is to get it ideally by the middle of this month. And if we are received the funding, that will then provide additional funding in the amount of $4.2 million that, again, will go through the same process of providing a credit on the customer's accounts and notifying them of this funding. So until we get through knowing that there's going to potentially be credits applied to the customer's accounts, we are not providing any specific time frame on the shutoffs, but again, the goal will be when the City of Modesto makes that determination, we will make sure an official letter notice will be provided with a 30-day time window to either establish a payment plan to ensure that there's some method of payment being applied on their past due balance. And this just summarizes, again, with the water portion of the funding that we're receiving. It will provide this credit to their account for residential customers. It'll benefit 7,195 customers. And then on the commercial side, it will be, assist 226 businesses. And again, the amount that we've received is 2.7 for the water portion. And with that said, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I also have Jenny Martin, our Revenue Collection and Compliance Manager, to also be available if there's any questions as well.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions from council members? Vice Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Deanna. Thank you for the report. I do have a couple of questions. Number one, if a person continues to be delinquent on their water bill, my understanding is that we will put a lien on the property at a certain time, correct?
Correct. There's an ordering, a sequence in regards to the different efforts that the team has in regards to collection. And if the account does have property ownership defined, then one of the methods is to place the lien on the property.
Okay, so my next question would be, if it's a renter that is delinquent on their water bill and chooses not to pay that water bill, does that lien still go onto the property itself?
I'm going to turn it over to Jenny. I'm pretty confident the answer is no, but I'd rather get that reassurance from my manager.
And then I'll have a follow-up question to that too.
Hi, Jenny Martin, Revenue Collections and Compliance Manager. The question was, would the bill be, a lien be placed against the owner's account for the tenant's bill? Is that
Or the
correct?
property, a lien against the property?
No action would be taken against the property for the tenant's outstanding balance. We can only lien it if the account holder is the owner of the property and they have the balance.
Okay, so as a landlord myself, do we give the landowner notification that their renter's water bill is delinquent?
No, it's tricky because there's a financial confidentiality aspect to it where we can't disclose one customer's financial information to another. There's certain situations where if the property is very delinquent and there's tampering going on with the service itself, that could create a liability for the property owner because of damage to the property that they're going to be responsible for, then we do notify the owners in those cases, just that there's tampering going on, and we try to give a little information about why that's happening. You know, maybe that there's nobody signed up for service at the property, so maybe the tenants moved in there, but they never signed up and are paying for service, or it's gotten to the point that we've shut it off, but they're continually turning it back on themselves and damaging the service.
Okay, so I would assume that that applies to the commercial property. I allow your commercial property to property tenants. So the landowner of that commercial property wouldn't be notified either, correct?
Correct.
And is that because of state law, or is that a ordinance that we could look at approving so we can notify the landowner at the time that account is in default, getting ready to have the water shut off?
I think it's something we could probably revisit again with the city attorney's office. I know we brought up that question because, you know, this has come up before. What can we disclose to the property owner? So it's been several years since we've asked that question, so it's something we could definitely revisit and consider, you know, like what other avenues do we have?
I think that would be a good avenue to look at. As a landlord, I would like to know if I have a tenant that's getting, you know, behind on their water bills. That's just a indication I've got more problems coming down the road. So as a landlord, I think I would want to know that, either to help work with my tenant to get the water, you know, caught up, or, you know, do whatever I have to do. So I think that would be something for staff to look at with city attorney, see if we can do some kind of ordinance, something so we can notify the landowners. That'd be great.
We can definitely do that.
Right, thank you. Councilmember Knoyer?
I just want to comment and thank our financial staff for actually seeing these things and going after them, because I'm sure it's a big help to people, you know, who have been in really stress, wondering what they're supposed to pay, and now knowing that this bill is not going to hang over their head. And thank you for all the work you do.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Thank you, Mayor. Deanna, I believe you had previously said that those residents or commercial businesses that will benefit from this action you just presented on, if they had previously participated and been beneficiaries of money that was provided through the COVID relief effort, if that is the case, they would not receive double dippings of this funding, but that money slated to them would revert back to the state.
Correct.
My question is, how long is that process for you to validate that going to take?
That's what the staff has actually been doing since we have been notice of the receipt of funding. So they've been able to work directly with the different agencies where we've received other methods of funding, either through the state or federal government, to identify those time periods and then ensure that they don't get the credit applied on their account for this arrears program that we receive funding for.
So that assessment is in process?
Correct.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, any comments from council members? None at this time. So this is a resolution accepting the funds from California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program for drinking water arrearage in an amount not to exceed $716,416 and authorizing the submission of an application to the CWWAPP for the wastewater arrearage amount estimated at $4,215,784. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All right, motion by
Second.
Vice Mayor Wright, second by Councilmember Scudia-Brayton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Madrigal?
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky?
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer? Aye. Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Mayor Zwallen?
Aye, so it carries 6-0 with Councilmember Zalaki absent. Next is matters too late for the agenda.
Mayor, I have one little comment real quick. I forgot to make it. Prayers are with you, Rosa, for the loss of your mother this week. And I know it was a hard battle, and you spent a lot of time up there with her. And just wanted to let you know all of us have you in our prayers.
Well, thank you, David, and I want to thank all of you. I have felt your heartfelt sentiments, and I feel honored to serve in this capacity alongside of you, and extending your sentiments for me during this time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for making that comment, and I think that it's a testament for the dedication of this council that we work under very difficult circumstances. I'm honored to have each of you on this council. Thank you so much, and I appreciate those comments, Dave. All right. No matters too late for the agenda. Seeing none, I am calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.